Family said I was just a guest in my own home. So I canceled every payment, moved into my place, and let them drown in the debt I used to cover. While I was in college, my sister took over my room. Dad said you didn't live here anymore. I answered, cool, then stop asking me to pay the mortgage. The stillness was deafening when I hit something unusual that summer. 3 years of college had passed in a haze of half-priced energy drinks, soul-crushing group projects, and evenings I can't quite recall. But this trip home, the one following exams, was meant to be my reward. I'd been looking forward to my bed, bookshelves, and the scratchy carpet under my desk, where I used to pace all night in high school. You know, home, or what I believed was still home. The indicators were little at first, such as no one texting to ask when my bus would arrive. No, I can't wait to see you from Mom. My sister Emily didn't send any taunting or emoji-laden messages, but I attributed it to stress. Everyone's tired these days, right? The fear didn't set in until I went through the front door, duffel bag slung over my shoulder, and discovered that my childhood images had been replaced by glossy canvas reproductions of someone else's aesthetic. I hesitated at the staircase. Emily's trademark aroma of vanilla candles and generic laundry detergent wafted through the air. She was 17, almost out of high school, but her tastes had always been influenced by HGTD's wayward daughter. Nevertheless, I smiled to myself. Perhaps she just redecorated downstairs. Perhaps it is my room. I came to a stop at the door. My old door, the one with the faded, "Keep out unless you have a pizza" sign. It was now pristine, with a light glow. There was a cursive gold decal that said, Emily's Sanctuary. My stomach fell. I knocked once and pushed the door open. What greeted me was more than simply a renovated room. It was a room that had been deleted. My desk is gone, as are the posters I had meticulously chosen over the course of 4 years. Nowhere. My bookcase remained intact, with all of the titles carefully labeled, Garage Donate, in pink Sharpie boxes. Where my bed once stood, there was a full-length mirror. A ring light is in the corner. There were photos of Emily and her pals on the walls. Her makeup was spread on a fresh white vanity. My voice broke the silence. Where's my belongings? Emily barely glanced up from her phone on the bed. Oh, Dad packed it all up. You mentioned that you no longer live here. I gave a blink. What? We redid it last month. You have been gone for 3 years. You're practically a guest now. I turned, walked out, and found my father in the kitchen, flipping through a stack of mail as if it were any other Tuesday. Dad, I murmured, trying to keep my voice normal. Why is Emily in my room now? He asked, not looking up. Since you do not reside here anymore. There was no apology or hesitancy, just a flat tone as if it was the most obvious thing in the world. I was staring at him. He was the same man who texted me last month. Could you contribute a little extra towards the mortgage? You still officially live here, correct? Technically. I took a long breath. My voice was soft, but it hit like a hammer. Okay, I replied. Stop asking me to pay my mortgage. The subsequent hush was deafening. Ev and Emily had stepped out of the hallway, phone dangling in her hand and lips slightly parted. No one said anything. It seemed as if I had violated some implicit agreement that I was meant to keep contributing and never question where it all went. But not this time. It was the beginning of something different. After that, please stop asking me to pay the mortgage. My father merely stared at me as if I had cursed at him, as if I had crossed some invisible line I had no idea existed, but I didn't flinch. I let the silence continue. He eventually cleared his throat, said something about attitude, and exited the room. I did not follow. Instead, I went outside and sat on the back porch steps, the wood still warm from the sun. I glanced out over the yard, the same one I used to mow weekly. The shed slanted slightly to the left, as it usually did. The grass had slightly overgrown, and I noticed Mom's new flower garden. Her favorite color was lavender. That was new to me, but I didn't notice it. Not exactly. I was thinking of money. 3 years. That is how long I'd been mailing checks. Initially, it was $150 per month. Just a small gesture to help out. You still technically live here. Dad had said back then. I was staying in dorms, eating ramen, and teaching on the side to get by, but I figured they needed help. And I was still a part of this house, right? Then it escalated to $200, $300, and occasionally more. Random Venmo demands tagged utilities or maintenance. Every time I paused, there was an SMS. the family works together. I believed that till now. Until I came into my former room and saw my life, memories, and possessions reduced to boxes stacked in a frigid garage labeled for charity, as if I were just another spring cleaning duty. I remembered something from last semester. Emily had posted on Instagram about her new vanity mirror with dimmable lighting. The caption was something like, "Finally got the glow up I deserve, blessed." I liked the post, commented, and even looked great, sis. I hadn't realized I paid for that mirror. I scratched my face, suddenly feeling fatigued in a way unrelated to finals. It wasn't just the space, it was that I was budgeting frozen burritos and doing laundry at 2 a.m. To escape the dorm crowds, my family had gradually cut the cord while still cashing the payments. That's when I checked my phone, opened my bank app, and browsed through the most recent transactions. They were all still outstanding, and I had yet to make the May payment. It had been scheduled to sit there. I hovered over the cancel button and pressed it. There's one down. Then I disabled the auto transfer link that my parents had put up 2 years before. It had been done purely for convenience. They said no more. That night, I didn't join them for supper. I went out and got a burger at a small dive bar I used to frequent in high school. I sat alone in a booth that my friends and I had jammed into after football games. I wasn't part of the team. I was in the pit band, but they always kept a seat for me. Now I was saving one for myself. It's just me and mine. And it felt oddly pleasant. The ramifications did not take long to start. The next morning, I was making coffee when Dad came into the kitchen with that particular stiffness he always had when something was bothering him. But he didn't want to say it outright. He poured himself a cup, leaned against the counter, and asked too casually, "Hey, did your transfer go through yet? Haven't seen it hit the account." I didn't even look up. "Nope," I said. "I canceled it." Silence. He blinked. "You what?" I finally met his eyes. "You said I don't live here. So why would I pay to live somewhere I don't?" He set his mug down a little too hard. "Don't be dramatic, Mark." There it was. Dramatic. The word they always used when I said something they didn't like. Not angry, not rude, dramatic. "You've been helping with this house for years," he went on, voice tightening. "And now you just stop over a room." I laughed once. Cold. "It's not about the room. Then what is it?" "It's about how you all made it crystal clear that I'm not part of this house anymore." Emily threw out my things. "You said, 'I don't live here.' You made that choice. And I'm making mine." He opened his mouth and closed it. Then came the guilt tactic. "We've been counting on that money, son. The mortgage doesn't pay itself." I raised an eyebrow. "I've been counting on having a family that actually respects me. We don't always get what we want." That was when Mom walked in already dressed for work, mug of peppermint tea in hand like she hadn't heard a thing. But her eyes flicked between us. She knew. "Mark," she repeated. "Let's not do this. Not while you're at home." I put down my coffee. "I'm not home." "You made sure of that." I exited the room. Later that day, Emily summoned the courage to knock on the door of the guest room, her previous room, which they offered me as a consolation prize. She leaned at the doorway, arms folded, hair curled, and makeup flawless as always. "You're really blowing this out of proportion," she observed, as if I were overreacting over a broken pencil. "You moved into my room without informing me. I spoke everything, painted my walls, and said nothing. It has been 3 years." She gave a scoff. "You've got a life? I have mine. I was in need of space." "You had space," I remarked gently. "You simply wanted mine." That silenced her for a moment. She shrugged. "Well, sorry, but you weren't using it. I paid for it." Her expression twisted. "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means the mirror, the desk, and the paint you used. All of that came out of my monthly deposits. So enjoy it. It's the last thing you'll get from me." Her mouth was slightly widening. She hadn't expected me to bite back. I wasn't supposed to say those things. I was meant to be the reliable big brother, the one who helped. No more. She walked away in a huff, muttering something under her breath. But I didn't ask her to repeat it because I had already packed my luggage. I departed the next morning. There was no grand goodbye. There was no elaborate farewell. I simply zipped up my suitcase and walked past the kitchen, where Dad was half sleeping in his recliner, and out the front door. Mom didn't move from her room. Emily had already left, most likely going to have smoothies with her friends, unaware of the storm she had helped build. I grabbed an Uber to the station and caught the first train back to university. It was technically summer break, but I could still use the dorms for a few weeks. They weren't really luxurious. Thin beds, clean white walls, and the incessant buzz of vending machines down the hall were all mine. Every inch of that space felt earned. Nobody could remove it, paint over it, or repurpose it to fit the new attitude. That afternoon, I sat down at my desk, my laptop open and a half-empty Red Bull beside me, and began sending emails. No, not to my parents. These lines have been cut. I contacted scholarship offices, internship programs and student housing committees. I was tired of putting in extra effort for an institution that plainly considered me as expendable. From now on, I was creating something for myself. That very week, I received an email that altered everything. I applied to a marketing agency during the midterms. They offered me a summer internship. Paid full-time downtown office. I had to read it 3 times before it hit home. I called the number listed in the email and responded yes, before the woman could finish asking if I was still available. I signed a short-term lease for a studio apartment 2 days later. It was barely larger than a dorm, and the bathroom had a tile that was older than I was, but it had a lock, a little balcony, and a spot on the wall where I could store my belongings. It took all I had saved to cover the deposit and the first month's rent. But for the first time my money was going towards me. My money wasn't a mystery anymore. Venmo requests tagged water bills. Not anymore. Can you contribute this month? Mom texted me at 1 a.m. I entirely restricted access to the family financial accounts. I changed my passwords and disabled the auto transfers, which I should have done a long time ago. Then the messages arrived. At first they were passive. Mom, just checking in. Did something happen to the payment this month? They then became more aggressive. This is not how our family does things, Dad. Mark, you committed. And then came the guilt. Emily, you are actually punishing all of us because you are upset that I needed a room. I did not reply to any of them. I just shared a photo on Instagram. Nothing fancy, just my new apartment keys on the counter with a 6-pack and a laptop. Caption, new chapter, no hashtags, and no explanation. They witnessed it. I know they saw it. The stillness that followed spoke it all. The hush lasted 3 days, until Mom broke down. I received a long, desperate email in my mailbox. The subject line. We should talk. She wrote about the tension she was feeling and how things had gotten out of control. How I had always been the reliable one. That last sentence made me giggle. Dependable. Like a paycheck with feelings. I didn't reply. The following day, a bank notification appeared, indicating another request from Dad. This time for $100 for a plumbing problem. I declined it. Seconds later, another $200 appeared. I declined again. That evening I shared a photo of my office badge. Only the lanyard and the firm's emblem are visible on a glossy glass wall. Caption, first week. That one landed hard. Nobody liked it, but I could feel their gaze on it. I envisioned Emily showing it to Dad, who was staring at the television in silent shock. In the meantime, I was busy constructing and living. Emily broke the silence first. Not with a message, but with a full-fledged outburst on social media. She captioned a blurry photo of her new room. Miss my peace. Some people are just selfish. Subtle. Mutual friends and classmates left comments inquiring what occurred. She didn't tag me, and she didn't have to. I was the villain in her little story, and she made sure everyone knew it. A mutual friend sent me a screenshot of her private story, a crying selfie, a close-up of a boxed-up vanity mirror, yes, the mirror, and a text overlay that said, I gave up everything for this room. Now I might have to move back into the guest room. I hate it here. I didn't reply, I just watched it. And yeah, it's done a little. Not her drama, but the fact that for 3 years I paid to keep the illusion going. I funded that comfort, that mirror, and that sense of entitlement. Now it is gone. She didn't know yet, but I had just begun. It was a quiet Tuesday night when the phone lit up again. Not a text this time, a call. Dad. I let it ring. Then, just as it went to voicemail, he called again and again. Finally, curiosity got the better of me. I didn't answer, but I listened to the message. Mark, hey, just wanted to check in. Look, maybe I said things I shouldn't have. We miss you around here. Your sister's been upset. Your mom too. Maybe we can talk things over. Yeah. Come by this weekend. I stared at the screen. The audio is still echoing faintly in my head. Come by this weekend. Like nothing had happened. Like I could just walk back in and sit at the table, hand them a check, and pretend none of it ever hurt. I deleted the voicemail. Then I grabbed a beer from my mini fridge, stepped out onto my tiny balcony, and watched the city lights blink like distant stars. They weren't reaching out because they missed me. They were reaching out because they missed the money. After the voicemail, the floodgates opened. Text after text, email after email. Not just from my parents, but extended family too. My Aunt Cheryl, who I hadn't spoken to since I was in braces, messaged me on Facebook with, "Hey sweetheart. Maybe you should come home and talk things out. It's just a misunderstanding, I'm sure." Right. Uncle Pete chimed in with a group message. "The family doesn't give up on each other. You're better than this." It was coordinated, scripted, even like my father had gathered everyone and said, "Let's guilt him into fixing this." I didn't respond to any of them. Instead, I posted a photo. It was subtle. I captured a close-up of my apartment windowsill, showcasing a small potted plant I recently purchased. Sunlight streaming in. I didn't use any hashtags or tags, but I was confident they'd notice, which they did. My aunt stopped following me 2 hours later. The point is, I wasn't interested in retribution in the traditional sense. There were no loud clashes or spectacular announcements. I desired a quiet revenge. The sort that caused them to simmer in their own silence. The kind that resulted from good living. So I began living better. I prepared meals in my own kitchen. I purchased a rail bed frame and joined up for a gym membership. On weekends, I walked around the city, tried new coffee shops, and did freelance work to supplement my savings. Every modest improvement felt like reclaiming a piece of myself that I had been throwing away for years. And I made sure they knew it, not via gloating, but through consistency. I posted about getting my work badge laminated. When I completed a design proposal, I received internal recognition. I framed my first paycheck and displayed it above my desk. All of it is just real enough to hurt. Just subtle enough to be obvious. Back at home, things were not going as well. Mark, an old neighborhood acquaintance, texted me unexpectedly. "Hey, is everything okay? Your sister was complaining about having to share the restroom again, lol." I inquired what he meant. They had moved Emily back into the guest room. This is my guest room. Apparently, she didn't realize I'd stopped the money until after claiming my room. When the mortgage fell behind, the guilt trip devolved into finger-pointing. Mark claimed that he overheard her screaming at her mother in the driveway one day. Something about ruining everything. "And you said he would not abandon us." The irony felt almost poetic. They wanted to turn me into a ghost in that house, and now they were haunted by my absence. The cracks took about 6 weeks to become visible. At first, they tried to keep the illusion. Emily continued to post as if everything was perfect. Sun-kissed selfies in her car, videos of her friends dancing in her room, despite the fact that she was back in the guest room with the yellowing curtains and a creaky bed frame. Mom tried texting casually, as if we were just out of touch. Unplanned. "I hope it works out well. I miss seeing you. Want to come over for dinner next Sunday?" I didn't answer. She followed up with a photo of my old bookshelf, what used to be in my room, half empty now, like some twisted metaphor. I guess they put a few of my books back to make it feel like his space again in case I changed my mind. I didn't. Dad didn't text much, but I heard from Mark that he'd been asking around if anyone knew a cheaper way to refinance the mortgage. Apparently the utility bills were stacking up. The central AC went out in early July. They were sweating through the same walls I once helped pay to insulate. The best part is they couldn't even ask for help. Not without admitting they'd burned the bridge, and I wasn't just sitting still. I was moving forward. My internship turned into a job offer. Not full-time yet, but they wanted to keep me on through the fall. Part-time, flexible hours with better pay. The manager said I had a rare combination of detail and grit. I smiled when she said that because grit was what this whole situation had given me. The old me would have gone back, would have answered the texts, softened the edges, and sent something. A couple hundred just to keep the peace. But not anymore. That house, it wasn't my home. Their struggles are not my responsibility, and their disappointment is not my burden. I'd started to imagine what life looked like without the constant weight of obligation, what it felt like to choose peace instead of pressure. And let me tell you, peace is addictive. One night, I came home from work, still wearing my badge, my shirt a little wrinkled, and shoes scuffed from the train station. I dropped my keys in the bowl by the door, cracked open a cold beer from the fridge and stood by the window. City lights blinked quietly across the skyline. My phone buzzed on the counter. Dad again. Another call. I let it ring. Didn't even pick it up this time. I just stood there watching it vibrate, watching the name fade from the screen. And when it stopped, I took a slow sip of that beer, leaned back in my chair, and smiled. The next morning, my phone buzzed again. One message. No greeting, no punctuation. We need to talk, Dad. I stared at it. Let it sit there. Watched the screen dim on its own. And I felt nothing. Not anger, not guilt. Just quiet. I set the phone face down on the table, grabbed my keys and headed out. No more wondering if I was needed, wanted, or useful. I wasn't anyone's crutch anymore. Later that night I came home, kicked off my shoes and cracked another beer. This one is colder than the last. The apartment was dim and peaceful. Mine. The phone lit up again on the counter. I didn't even look, just leaned back, took a long sip, and let the silence stretch. Finally, it was mine too. Thanks for watching and diving into this wild family drama with me. If you love Reddit family drama, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss the next one. Boyfriend teamed up with aunt, forged my signature, tried to sell my life as a brand. So I sold their house and played their plan on the speakers. What could be worse than having no money on your birthday? In front of a room full of people, eating catered prawns and sipping $100 Chardonnay like it was tap water, you are reminded that you are broken by someone who is supposed to love you, or at least appear to. I turned 39 on that day. Although it wasn't a summit or a milestone, it felt important. I might feel less like a failure at life this year. Throughout the morning, I had put on a brave front, used a borrowed iron to curl my hair, and wore a dress that I had discovered on sale 2 months prior, but had stored away in the closet, as though it may become more valuable with time. The tiny party my mother insisted on hosting for me somehow evolved into a semi-formal event at Aunt Callista's remodeled colonial, the one with the enormous fireplace that is never used, and the marble island that can accommodate a damn automobile. They gave me tight hugs and fake smiles that smelled like department store counter perfume samples as soon as I walked in. Naturally, Cousin Evelyn was present, displaying her confident wifely energy and flawless teeth, which she flashed whenever she talked, resembling a lioness protecting her prey. As if she owned the air we breathed, Aunt Callista floated across the room in her cashmere, holding a glass of something that was likely older than me. Corbin remained behind me, as he often did in these kinds of settings, his hand resting low on my back like a silent little anchor. He had never been fond of my family, but he never publicly said it. Rather, if Louie's voice got harder, or Evelyn started talking about her house-flipping business or her new Pilates machine that feels like sex for your abs, he would hold my palm a little tighter. Who would say that, really? Aunt Callista got up and tapped her crystal flute with a silver fork that was probably more expensive than my automobile after we had just finished the second round of drinks. As is often the case when a person in a position of power pretends to be warm, the room instantly becomes silent. She turned toward me, smiling, and said, "Now everyone, I just want to say a few words for our dear Jenna. I should have known right then it was coming. She's always been a little wild at heart. Our Jenna never quite followed the map the rest of us did. But she's resilient, that's for sure. I mean, 2 jobs. That's commitment. And I know it's not easy out there." She paused dramatically, scanning the room for nods of agreement. "But we're all so proud of you, even though you barely make ends meet. Have you ever had a moment where the air just left your lungs without your permission? That was it. That moment." I stood there, wine glass half raised, a smile frozen on my face like someone had slapped it there in a hurry. And then came the laughter. Polite at first, then not so polite. Cousin Evelyn snorted into her hand, and even my mother chuckled nervously like she didn't know where to look. I wanted to disappear. Just vanish. Nothing dramatic, no yelling, no storming out, no broken wine glass, but maybe just quietly sliding into the ground like a cartoon character and never coming back up. But before I could even fake a laugh or force out a weak thank you, Corbin stood up slowly, calmly, like he'd been waiting. "I've got something to say too," he said, pulling something out of his coat pocket. A small black box, not velvet, not flashy, just plain matte and serious. The room hushed, like, really hushed. You could have heard someone's Spanx snap from across the table. My heart climbed up my throat and lodged itself there like it didn't want to miss the show. Corbin looked at me. Not at Aunt Callista's. Not at anyone else. Just me. Good thing, he said, smiling slightly. She can afford to say yes to this. Guests. Literal gasps. Like someone in the room had just witnessed a live proposal. I blinked, frozen, then slowly took the box from his hand. My fingers felt too thick, too slow, like I was underwater. I opened it half expecting a diamond, or at least a flashy fake. But inside wasn't anything like that. It was a key, not a decorative one, not a charm or a pendant. A real solid brass house key nestled in a folded slip of paper that had my name written on it. The silence in the room thickened like syrup, stretching over every eye, every open mouth, and every shocked face. Evelyn looked like she was about to swallow her own tongue. Aunt Callista narrowed her eyes. Corbin leaned in, still calm, still soft-voiced. This, he said, changes everything. I stared at him. I wanted to ask what the hell he meant. I wanted to laugh, to cry, and to ask him why he did it like that. But mostly, I wanted to know what the key opened, and why everyone else looked so goddamn afraid of it. I stood there holding that key like it was burning a hole through my palm, trying to make sense of the fact that Corbin had just very calmly, very publicly thrown a wrench into my entire understanding of what this night was supposed to be. My birthday party, my embarrassment, my carefully measured survival mode life, and now suddenly a goddamn house key in a box in front of all these people who'd spent the last 10 years smirking behind my back about my choices, my jobs, my empty savings account, and the fact that I still drove a 15-year-old Toyota with a cassette deck. The silence didn't break, not really. It just cracked around the edges while the air buzzed with that uncomfortable tension people get when they don't know whether to clap or cringe. Aunt Callista took a slow sip of her wine, her eyes narrowing the way they do when she senses something she didn't orchestrate. Evelyn was the first to speak, of course, because God forbid she not center herself for more than 30 seconds. A key? She asked, lifting one perfect eyebrow like she was genuinely confused. To what? Corbin didn't even flinch. He stepped closer to me, put one hand gently on the small of my back like he always did when he thought I might bolt, and said, "To a lake house. I bought it for us. It's in your name." That sentence should have hit like a warm breeze, right? Romantic gesture, surprise gift, life-changing opportunity. But instead, it dropped into my stomach like a stone. My name. A lake house was bought by him without telling me, without even hinting. I looked at him then, not just at his face, but into it, searching for some sign that this was all part of some elaborate proposal, some sweet grand plan he dreamed up to make me feel special. But Corbin wasn't a grand jester. He was the guy who forgot Valentine's Day 2 years in a row and made up for it with a Target bouquet and gas station chocolate. He was steady, not surprising. Quiet, not flashy. So why now? Wait, I said, my voice catching in my throat. You bought a house? He nodded once. Yes, it's a small place. Nothing crazy, but private on the lake. I thought maybe we could have a fresh start. I didn't respond. I couldn't. My brain was still catching up to the part where I apparently now owned property, or didn't, or maybe did but didn't want to. I've known Corbin for almost 15 years now. We started dating back in 2018, which is almost 5 years ago. Wait, no, that's wrong. 7. It's been 7 years. Anyway, I pulled the small folded piece of paper from the box, the one sitting just beneath the key, thinking it was maybe just a sweet note or the address or something simple. But it wasn't. It was a legal envelope, a pre-printed contract with my full name across the top, and legal wording that made my stomach tighten with every line I skimmed. "Corbin," I said, my voice sharper now. "What is this?" He looked at me like I was missing the point entirely. "It's just paperwork to formalize the deed. I already paid for everything. I had it transferred into your name. That way, no matter what, it's yours." I felt every eye in the room drilling into the side of my head. I could hear the whispering already starting. Callista whispered to Evelyn. Evelyn whispered to her plastic-faced husband. And my mom just sitting there, blinking like this was all too much for her to process. I didn't agree to this, I said softer now, unsure if I was trying to calm myself or avoid another public scene. "You don't have to agree," Corbin said, smiling that same patient smile he used when explaining something techie to me. "It's done. You own it. Sign at the bottom, please. This weekend we can go. I want you to see it." My gut twisted again. Why now? Why this way? Why the hell would someone go behind my back to do something that was supposed to be a gift? And why was there already a signature on the last page that looked just like mine? I froze, staring at the page. That was my name, my signature, but I hadn't signed a damn thing. And as the room began to stir again with people murmuring and whispering and waiting for me to break into grateful tears or fall into ma. Because it wasn't a present. It was a setup. I didn't get any sleep at all that night. My thoughts kept going over every word of that document, every signature that wasn't mine but looked damn near close enough, and every courteous laugh that had reverberated in that living room when Aunt Callista made her little jibe about my wage. None of it was an accident. By the time I got home, Corbin was already asleep next to me, snoring softly as if he hadn't just dropped a live grenade into my life. The key sat on my nightstand, like a bomb I couldn't defuse, and at 7 in the morning, I was still wide awake and vibrating with a slow, quiet rage that made my skin feel like it didn't fit. As the early sunlight bounced off the hood of my dingy car in the driveway, I paced between the counter and the window, like an old detective in a noir movie, making coffee just to have something to do with my hands. I didn't even give Corbin a chance to settle in when he finally came downstairs, all sleepy-eyed and innocent. I said, "We need to talk," in a flat, pointed voice that sounded like I was attempting to smack him. I pushed the envelope down in front of him so forcefully that the porcelain sugar jar rattled. He blinked a couple of times, wiped his face as if I had just interrupted his dream, nodded, and sat down at the kitchen table as if we were going over our monthly grocery list. "My name is previously signed on this. Do you want to explain why?" He didn't flinch at all. "I told you," he continued. "I wanted this to be a surprise." He simply opened the envelope gently, took out the contract as if he were handling something precious, and gave me a look that was either serene or totally distant from reality. "It's not surprising that you forged my signature," I said. "The fact that it finally caused him to sit up straight is a damned felony." He raised his hands as if I were brandishing a gun. "Nothing escaped my notice. When you signed the permission form for the family photo last year, Jenna, your aunt had your signature on file. Her lawyer utilized that to complete the trust documents." I blinked, looked at him, and thought about my aunt. I said in a calm, low voice, "The state of a fuse right before it strikes powder." He gave a nod as though he were describing something rather commonplace. "Yes, she paid for the acquisition. It is a component of a trust. She wanted to do something for you." I gave a quick, dry and biting laugh at that time. "Are you implying that she came up with the concept for that house, that key, and the whole scene in front of everyone last night?" He nodded once again as though I should be thankful rather than angry about this. "She wants you to have an easier time." He claimed that it was meant to calm me down, but there were acceptable restrictions. You would continue to own the property and reside there. You simply need to put forth some effort with her. I placed both of my palms on the table as I leaned forward. "Under what circumstances?" Corbin hesitated for the first time, which told me all I needed to know, even though I knew in my heart that whatever he said next would make me want to throw something through a window. Carefully he replied, "She wants you to quit both your jobs. Put more effort at publicly representing the family. Events, blogs, a few lifestyle features, and certain partnerships with the brand team would all be included. Nothing out of the ordinary." I looked at him as though he had grown a new head. "Do you mean to turn him into a mascot?" "Flatly," I said. "For Callista's meticulously built empire." He spoke hastily, as if he was expecting a retort. "She just wants to help clean up the image. It makes sense to bring in someone relatable and realistic after Evelyn's ordeal." And there it was. I stepped back as if he were something toxic, saying, "This wasn't a gift. The reality is concealed beneath layers of phony charity and gleaming keys. This was a public rebranding strategy that featured my face." "Jenna, there's a chance," he added, raising his voice. "A chance to live somewhere lovely, to stop struggling, and to not have to check your money account before buying groceries." I laughed once more, but the humor was gone. Only fatigue and incredulity. I remarked icily, "And all I have to do is sell my time, my independence, and my dignity. Is that my piece's price tag? Monthly family dinners. For the camera, smile. Pretend we don't consider you a letdown, Jenna." Corbin, obviously frustrated, got up and raked his hands through his hair. "You wouldn't have to worry about money ever again," he stated louder now, as if that resolved the whole issue. And I finally lost it at that point. "Why do you believe I now trust you?" My voice was low and tremulous as I asked. Behind my back, you went. You stole her money. You struck a deal with someone who had been disparaging me for years, and then you pretended that it was all out of love while standing in front of everyone. He didn't respond. He simply gazed at me as though he hadn't anticipated my response. As if he truly believed that I would be appreciative. As if he had completely forgotten who I was. Corbin didn't do this for me, and in that stillness, I came to a realization I hadn't before completely acknowledged to myself. To fix me, he did it. So that I could love him more easily, and without costing him anything. And it's not love at all, that kind of love. If something smells bad, it probably is, in my opinion. No matter how many ribbons you tie on top of it or how many candles you light around it, I stopped waiting for more honesty and started searching for it myself after Corbin revealed that Aunt Callista was paying for the house, and that I was the new poster child for the family's wholesome recovery story. When people believe you're stupid, they will talk, and when they believe you're desperate, they will lie even more quickly. I performed the act, giving Corbin the impression that I was becoming softer. I gave Aunt Callista the impression that I was flattering. I nodded like a good little puppet and smiled through gritted teeth for the first time in years, even though I was actually pulling every thread I could find behind the curtain. I started by calling Valerie, a friend from my previous days as a waitress, who was now an assistant in a real estate firm 2 towns over. With the correct bottle of wine and a shared grievance, Valerie could get her hands on anything. Less than a day after I requested her to check the deed for the lake house, she emailed me a scanned copy of it with one line typed underneath. "Babe, this isn't yours." It turned out that neither Corbin nor I owned the property, nor was it even in escrow. Instead, it was still under a holding company that was managed by Callista Lorraine Ventures LLC, a mouthful of a name that smacked of legal jargon and familial riches. The whole thing about the gift in your name. A neatly packed trap, that's all. An attractive small jail. I didn't tell Corbin what I had discovered, but it still aches in that slow, corrosive way that falsehoods do when they're disguised as love. Not quite yet. I required more. At that point, I committed my second error. Or perhaps that was the wisest move I've ever made. While he was shopping for groceries, I opened his laptop. Yes, I am aware. Snooping is an untidy affair. Let's not pretend, though, that I was some naive fool at this point. On the night of my birthday, something had exploded inside of me, and once it was gone, it was impossible to put back. I rolled my eyes so hard I could almost hear them clicking inside since his password was still our previous anniversary date. At first, I didn't notice anything particularly shocking. Work files, streaming passwords, and bills were all there, but under an old archive folder was a series of emails that hit me harder than I could handle. My cousin Evelyn, the one with the surgically flawless face and the phony humility, was there. Corbin, the man who claimed to love me, was there. There were dozens of emails, messages with subject lines like, "About last night," and "Don't tell Jenna," that were sent before we moved in together. The majority of it was mild, even dull. But one message felt my stomach turn, as if someone had manually twisted it inside of me. It was sent 6 months ago by Evelyn. 2:30 in the morning, timestamp. We were better together, in my opinion. It was always meant for you to be with someone who gets this world. Corbin, you are no longer a person who works shifts to get money. You are aware that she is not one of us. He hadn't answered. At any rate, not in writing. I refrained from screaming. I refrained from crying. Everything finally made sense, so I just looked at that screen until my fists unclenched and my eyes went blurry. The lake house, the pressure, the time. It was all just a fancy PR gimmick. Evelyn had a big idea. Callista had determined that I would be the remedy, and I had no idea what it was yet, but it had to be terrible. The story of redemption. The hard-working, impoverished niece was abruptly elevated to a position of honor. A heel branding. I thus took the only sensible action. I smiled so broadly that it almost split my face in two when I signed the documents. I uploaded a picture of the key against the lake scene to Instagram and hashtagged it with all the appropriate nonsense. Blessed. Sure, fresh starts. First, have faith in the process. Additionally, I labeled Evelyn, Callista, and even the family company. When Corbin got home that evening, I was singing to myself and pouring wine in the kitchen as if my trust hadn't just been destroyed and sold for scrap. With hesitation, as if he was afraid of abrupt moves, he said, "You seem okay." "I am," I responded, passing him a glass. "You were correct. Everything is altered by this. I did mean it, but not in the way he believed. Because I was calling, researching, and getting in touch with ladies I knew who had worked for Louis's company for a short time, and then quietly left as he slept. Some pushed out, while others paid off. One of them, Dana, a marketing intern, emailed me a file that she was not allowed to have. It was a 2-month-old rebranding document. Restoring the family name. The Jenna Project was the title of the strategy pitch. They were calling me by that name. Not a niece, not a partner, not a project. I went to the lake house by myself the following day. It wasn't a home, and I strolled around the rooms, taking in the staged furnishings, the unaltered kitchen, and the fireplace that had most likely never been lit. I was meant to be the cheerful mannequin in the center of the showroom set. But now I had more than just a smile. I was going to give them a show they would never forget, so I had knowledge and a plan. I had been pretending to be the family's sparkling new narrative for 6 weeks, when I signed those documents with a smile on my face and a trap in my pocket. They have a well-developed redemption arc. A smiling little puppet with not enough fire to burn down the house, but just enough grit to make her acceptable to the general public. I did a fantastic job in the role. I smiled through brunches, boardroom introductions, and when Callista offered me a branded scarf with my initials sewn on it like a collar. Corbin even bought it, believing that I had finally come to terms with my new duty as some thankful rescued bird they'd plucked out of the gutter. And I bit my tongue and took mental notes each time they gave me that smug little delight in their eyes. Since tonight was my show, tonight was the conclusion. This time, the meal was at Evelyn's place. One of the 3 properties she owns spread out over the state. The one with the chef who was flown in from somewhere I couldn't pronounce without seeming like a moron. And the rooftop garden. The list of guests was small. According to Callista, there were precisely 20 individuals, all of whom were either family members or important figures in the brand. They were all dressed as though they were trying out for a catalog called Success and Subtle Superiority. I also wore the same dress from my birthday celebration, which was still perfectly fitted and reminded me of my true identity despite all the packing. Callista sat at the head of the long table, raising her wineglass every few minutes to make brief statements about hard work, family values, and authentic representation. Corbin sat next to me as if nothing had changed, his hand resting lightly on my thigh beneath the table as if he owned me again. Every time she uttered something she knew she didn't mean, her gaze shifted to me. I stood up calmly, poised, and just buzzed enough to make it fun when dessert was cleared, and the conversation veered into one of those awkward lulls where people start checking their phones under the table and loosening their belts. Evelyn, bless her plastic little heart, continued laughing too loudly at jokes no one made and clinking her glass against Corbin's, as if we were still acting like nothing had happened between them behind my back. I said, I wanted to say something. Callista's face brightened as if she had been waiting for me to finally settle in. I raised my own glass with a charming little smile that seemed too big to be true. Her gesture was grandiose. Of course, darling, she murmured. Please go ahead. I turned slightly to face the full table, cleared my throat and let my voice carry just enough to silence the last whispers and clinks of cutlery. I just want to thank everyone here tonight, I began, especially Aunt Callista for her generosity, her belief in me, and for giving me a chance to become part of something bigger. They all nodded, sipped wine, and smiled like trained seals when the dinner bell rang. I'd also like to thank Corbin, I said, my voice calm but tight around the edges, for thinking I was worthy of such a wonderful gift, and for believing in me when I didn't. Callista beams. Corbin squeezed my hand, and I dropped it. That house, I responded, still smiling. I sold it. Returned to the bank. Every penny goes to a nonprofit that helps women rebuild their lives after abuse, neglect, and manipulation. The quiet struck the table like lightning, and forks froze in midair. Glasses hung on lips that no longer knew what to do. I didn't need it, I explained, my voice low. Now I have my own thing. My own name. My personal future. Callista's face cracked first. Evelyn's jaw tensed, her eyes twitched, and her hand grasped the table edge as if she needed it to stay upright. She appeared to have been slapped. Corbin became completely still. Before anyone could respond, I took out my phone and tapped the screen. The speakers in the dining room had been connected all evening, playing soft background jazz. They now played something different, a recording with a voice. Callista's helper recorded without her knowledge. As clear as day. She's not family, she's a prefect. Evelyn messed up, and we need someone the public will support. Jenna is impoverished, hardworking, relatable, and gullible enough to accept a shiny key. Corbin has already agreed. She will be grateful. She will not ask any questions. I did not say anything. I did not have to. The room burst. Evelyn jumped up and rushed, tears streaming down her cheeks and her shoes clacking like bullets on the marble floor. Callista pulled back from the table so forcefully that her chair nearly overturned, her face white with rage, already yelling about legal ramifications, slander, and betrayal. Corbin rose up slowly, looking at me as if I had transformed into something he didn't recognize. Something sharper and colder than the woman he had once convinced himself he could control. "Jenna," he said, his voice low and delicate. "I didn't know she said that." "I didn't." I shouted, "Don't say a word," and stopped him with a hand. "You're more than just a coward. You're both." He opened his mouth again, but I was already on my way, already finished playing the part, already finished acting like the appreciative girl who didn't realize she was being used as a prop in someone else's redemption story. At the front door, I stopped just long enough to reach into my coat pocket and take out a small velvet box. The one I had discovered hidden in Corbin's drawer the previous week. The one that contained the ring he never gave, and threw it in the trash by the entrance without hesitation. Outside, the night was clear and peaceful, and for the first time in months, it felt like mine. I got into my car, started it, and as the headlights cut through the black driveway, my phone rang in the center console. There was one unread message from Evelyn. "You were never supposed to find out, but Corbin truly loved you." I stared at the screen and didn't reply. Thanks for watching and sticking around till the end. If you enjoyed these stories, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss the next drama-filled episode. My jealousy towards my sister was compounded when my boyfriend admitted he finds her prettier than me. Growing up in our family was like living in two different worlds under the same roof. Our house, a modest two-story home on the outskirts of a bustling city, was filled with the sounds of laughter, chatter, and the occasional sibling squabble. My parents, hard-working and loving, always did their best to provide for us. My father, an engineer, spent long hours at the office, while my mother, a nurse, often worked night shifts at the local hospital. Despite their busy schedules, they made time for family dinners, weekend outings, and holidays filled with warmth and joy. My name is Lily, and I am 24 years old. My sister Emma is 2 years older than me. From a young age, it was clear that Emma and I were different in many ways. Emma was the kind of child who turned heads wherever she went. With her tall, slender frame, cascading golden hair and striking blue eyes, she could easily have been a child model. Her beauty was undeniable and magnetic, drawing attention and admiration from everyone she encountered. Even as a toddler, people would stop my mother in the grocery store to comment on how beautiful Emma was. I, on the other hand, was often described as cute. I had a petite build, with curly brown hair that refused to be tamed and wide, hazel eyes. While Emma's beauty was the kind that commanded attention, mine was more subdued, often overlooked in the shadow of her radiance. I didn't mind at first. I loved Emma dearly and took pride in her beauty and charm. Emma was outgoing, confident, and charismatic. She made friends easily and was always the center of attention at school and social gatherings. Her laughter was infectious and her energy seemed boundless. Emma had a natural talent for making people feel special, and she thrived in social situations. I was more introverted and reserved. I enjoyed spending time with a close-knit group of friends and preferred quiet activities like reading, drawing, and exploring the outdoors. While Emma dazzled others with her charm, I found joy in the small, simple moments of life. I was content to observe and listen, often playing the role of the supportive sister who stood in the background, cheering Emma on from the sidelines. Despite our differences, Emma and I shared a close bond during our early childhood years. We would spend hours playing in the backyard, creating imaginary worlds and embarking on grand adventures. Emma was always the leader, inventing elaborate storylines and assigning roles, while I happily followed along, adding my own touches to our fantastical tales. Our parents did their best to treat us equally, showering us with love and support. However, as we grew older, the differences in how people perceived us became more pronounced. At family gatherings, relatives would gush over Emma's beauty, often overlooking me in their admiration. Teachers at school would comment on Emma's potential to become a model or actress, while my achievements in academics and art were noted but not celebrated with the same enthusiasm. One of my earliest memories of feeling overshadowed by Emma's beauty occurred when I was 6 years old. It was Emma's 8th birthday, and our parents had thrown a big party to celebrate. The house was filled with family and friends, laughter and music echoing through the rooms. Emma wore a beautiful pink dress with a matching bow in her hair, looking like a princess from a fairy tale. I wore a simple blue dress, feeling pretty but plain next to Emma's dazzling appearance. As the guests arrived, they flocked to Emma, showering her with compliments and gifts. "You look like a little princess, Emma," they would exclaim. "You're going to break so many hearts when you grow up." Meanwhile, I stood nearby, smiling politely, waiting for someone to notice me. A few guests did, offering kind but brief comments like, "Lily, you look cute too." But the focus was always on Emma. I remember feeling a pang of jealousy that day, a confusing and unwelcome emotion that I didn't fully understand at the time. I loved Emma and wanted her to be happy, but I couldn't help but feel invisible in her shadow. It was a feeling that would follow me throughout my childhood and into my teenage years, growing stronger with each passing year. Family outings were another reminder of the differences in how we were perceived. Whether we were at the park, the zoo, or on a beach vacation, Emma always drew admiring glances and comments from strangers. "What a beautiful child," they would say to my parents. "She should be in movies." My parents would smile proudly and thank them, while I stood quietly by their side, wishing for a fraction of the attention Emma received. The first day of elementary school was a milestone for both Emma and me. Emma, with her natural charisma and stunning looks, was immediately popular. She made friends effortlessly, her laughter and charm drawing others to her like a magnet. I admired her ability to connect with people and often found myself standing quietly by her side, watching as she navigated the social landscape with ease. Emma's popularity grew quickly. She was invited to every birthday party, chosen first for group activities, and always had someone to sit with at lunch. I, on the other hand, struggled to fit in. Making friends didn't come naturally to me. I was shy, preferring the company of a good book to the noise of the playground. While Emma thrived in the social environment of school, I often felt like an outsider looking in. In the classroom, the differences between us were equally apparent. Teachers adored Emma. They praised her participation, her enthusiasm, and her ability to brighten the room with her presence. "Emma, you're such a delight," they would say. "Your smile just lights up the classroom." I couldn't help but notice that their praise for me was more subdued. "Lily, you did well on your spelling test," they would say, their tone lacking the same warmth and excitement. As the school year progressed, several significant events highlighted the growing gap between Emma and me. One such event was the annual school talent show. Emma decided to perform a dance routine, and she practiced diligently every day after school. Our parents were thrilled and supportive, attending every practice session and offering words of encouragement. When the night of the talent show arrived, the auditorium was packed with students, parents, and teachers. Emma took the stage in a sparkling costume, her confidence radiating through the room. She performed flawlessly, her movements graceful and captivating. The audience erupted in applause, and I felt a surge of pride for my sister. But as the cheers grew louder, so did the pang of jealousy in my heart. Later that evening, as we gathered in the school gymnasium for refreshments, Emma was surrounded by admirers. "Emma, you were amazing. You should be a professional dancer." The compliments flowed freely, and I watched from the sidelines, feeling small and insignificant. No one seemed to notice my presence, and I couldn't shake the feeling of being overshadowed. One particular family gathering stands out in my memory. It was Thanksgiving, and our house was filled with the delicious aroma of roasted turkey and pumpkin pie. Relatives had traveled from near and far to join us, and the dining room buzzed with conversation and laughter. Emma, dressed in a stylish outfit that accentuated her beauty, was the center of attention as usual. As we gathered around the dinner table, our Aunt Margaret turned to Emma and said, "Emma, darling, you're looking more stunning than ever. You should be on the cover of a magazine." Everyone nodded in agreement, their eyes fixed on Emma. I felt a familiar knot tighten in my stomach. "And Lily, how are you doing in school?" Aunt Margaret added, almost as an afterthought. I forced a smile and replied, "I'm doing well, thank you." But the words felt hollow, and the conversation quickly shifted back to Emma. As the evening wore on, I found myself retreating to a quiet corner, unable to shake the growing sense of jealousy and inadequacy. The school year was filled with events where Emma shone brightly, further highlighting the differences between us. One such event was the school's Spring Fling, a day of fun activities, games, and performances. Emma was chosen to be the lead in the school play, a fairy tale princess who saved the day with her bravery and beauty. She rehearsed her lines with enthusiasm, and our parents couldn't have been prouder. On the day of the Spring Fling, the entire school gathered in the auditorium to watch the play. Emma's performance was, as expected, flawless. She captivated the audience with her charm and grace, earning a standing ovation. I watched from the audience, clapping along with everyone else, but inside, I felt a mix of pride and resentment. After the play, there were games and activities on the school lawn. Emma was surrounded by friends, all eager to be seen with the school's star. I wandered the grounds, feeling out of place and disconnected. I wanted to join in the fun, but my shyness held me back. As I watched Emma laughing and playing with her friends, I couldn't help but wonder if I would ever feel as confident and accepted as she did. The first feelings of jealousy and resentment began to take root during these formative years. I loved Emma deeply, but I couldn't ignore the constant comparisons and the favoritism that seemed to follow her everywhere. It wasn't just the teachers and family members who favored her, it was everyone. Even our peers seemed to gravitate towards her, leaving me feeling like an afterthought. One Christmas our family gathered at our grandparents' house. The living room was filled with twinkling lights, and the scent of freshly baked cookies filled the air. As we exchanged gifts, our relatives couldn't help but comment on Emma's appearance. "Emma, you're growing more beautiful every year. You look like a movie star." I received kind but less enthusiastic comments. "Lily, you're looking nice today," they would say, their eyes already drifting back to Emma. That night, as we lay in our shared bedroom at our grandparents' house, I confided in Emma about how I was feeling. "Emma, do you ever get tired of all the attention?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Emma sighed and turned to face me. "Sometimes, Lily. It can be overwhelming. But I'm grateful for it too. You know, you have so many amazing qualities that people notice too. You're smart, creative, and kind. Don't let anyone make you feel less than you are." I appreciated Emma's words, but they didn't fully alleviate my feelings of jealousy and inadequacy. It was hard to feel confident when I was constantly being compared to someone who seemed to have it all. As we progressed through elementary school, there were more events and activities that highlighted the differences between Emma and me. One such event was the annual science fair. Emma and I both participated, and while I worked diligently on my project about the solar system, Emma chose a project about butterflies that showcased her artistic talents. On the day of the science fair, the gymnasium was filled with colorful displays and eager students. Emma's project was beautifully presented, with intricate drawings of butterflies and a detailed explanation of their life cycle. My project, though well-researched, paled in comparison to the visual appeal of Emma's display. When the judges announced the winners, Emma received first place in the artistic category. I received an honorable mention for my research, but it felt like a consolation prize. Our parents were proud of both of us, but the excitement around Emma's win was palpable. "Emma, you did such an amazing job, we're so proud of you," they exclaimed, while my achievement was acknowledged with a simple, "Good job, Lily." I tried to hide my disappointment, but it was difficult. The constant comparisons and the feeling of being overshadowed were taking a toll on my self-esteem. I loved Emma and wanted to be happy for her, but I couldn't ignore the growing sense of resentment and inadequacy. One summer, our family went on a vacation to a lakeside cabin. It was a beautiful, serene place, surrounded by trees and with a clear blue lake perfect for swimming and boating. Emma and I spent our days exploring the woods, swimming in the lake, and roasting marshmallows by the campfire. One afternoon, as we were swimming, a group of kids from a neighboring cabin joined us. Emma, with her outgoing personality, quickly made friends with them. They were captivated by her beauty and charm, and soon they were playing games and splashing around together. I tried to join in, but I felt like an outsider. The kids seemed more interested in Emma, and I found myself drifting to the edge of the group, watching from a distance. That evening, as we sat by the campfire, I couldn't help but feel a pang of jealousy. Emma had a way of making friends effortlessly, while I struggled to fit in. It was a feeling that I was becoming all too familiar with, and I didn't know how to deal with it. As we moved through elementary school, the differences between Emma and me continued to shape our experiences. Emma's popularity and ease in making friends stood in stark contrast to my struggles. I found solace in my studies and hobbies, but the social dynamics of school were a constant challenge. One day, during recess, a group of girls invited Emma to join their game of hopscotch. I stood nearby, hoping to be included, but they didn't seem to notice me. Emma, always the kind sister, turned to me and said, "Lily, come play with us." The girls exchanged glances but didn't protest, so I joined in. As we played, it became clear that the girls were more interested in Emma. They complimented her on her hopscotch skills, giggled at her jokes, and vied for her attention. I felt like a background character in my own life, struggling to find my place in a world that seemed to revolve around my sister. By the time we reached 5th grade, the divide between Emma and me had grown wider. Emma was elected class president, a role that suited her outgoing personality and leadership skills. She thrived in the spotlight, organizing events, leading discussions, and earning the admiration of teachers and students alike. I continued to excel in academics, often earning top grades and praise from my teachers. But the recognition I received felt different from the adoration showered on Emma. My achievements were acknowledged with polite applause, while Emma's accomplishments were celebrated with enthusiasm and fanfare. One spring, our school held a field day, a day filled with various athletic events and competitions. Emma, with her natural athleticism and competitive spirit, signed up for multiple events and excelled in each one. She won first place in the relay race, the long jump, and the obstacle course. The crowd cheered her on, and she was awarded a trophy for her outstanding performance. I participated in a few events, but my results were modest in comparison. I placed third in the three-legged race and received a participation ribbon for the tug of war. Our parents congratulated me on my efforts, but their excitement was clearly focused on Emma's achievements. As we walked home that afternoon, Emma carried her trophy with pride, while I clutched my participation ribbon, feeling a mix of pride and frustration. I was happy for Emma, but I couldn't help but feel overshadowed once again. The constant comparisons and the feeling of being in her shadow were taking a toll on my self-esteem, and I didn't know how to break free from the cycle. Despite the challenges and the constant comparisons, there were moments of hope and encouragement. One such moment came from an unlikely source, our art teacher, Mrs. Thompson. She was a kind and perceptive woman who had a talent for seeing the potential in her students. One day after class, Mrs. Thompson asked me to stay behind. "Lily, I've noticed that you have a real talent for drawing," she said, her eyes twinkling with warmth. "Your attention to detail and your ability to capture emotion in your work are truly impressive." I blushed, not used to receiving such direct praise. "Thank you, Mrs. Thompson," I replied, feeling a spark of pride. "I think you should consider entering your artwork in the school's art contest," she continued. "You have a gift, and I believe it's worth sharing with others." Encouraged by her words, I decided to take a chance. I spent hours in my room, working on a piece that I hoped would capture the judge's attention. It was a portrait of a girl standing in a field of wildflowers, her expression a mix of wonder and melancholy. I poured my heart into the drawing, determined to create something that would make me proud. When the day of the art contest arrived, I felt a mix of excitement and nerves. The school gymnasium was filled with colorful displays, each piece a testament to the talent and creativity of the students. Emma accompanied me, her supportive presence a comfort in the sea of competition. As the judges made their rounds, I watched nervously, hoping that my work would stand out. When the results were announced, I was thrilled to hear my name called for first place in the drawing category. The applause was loud and genuine, and for the first time, I felt like I had truly earned my moment in the spotlight. Emma hugged me tightly, her eyes shining with pride. "I knew you could do it, Lily," she exclaimed. "You're amazing." However, when I came home and wanted to show off my achievement to my parents, I walked into the living room and saw Emma already basking in their praise. She had just returned from a photo shoot for a local magazine, and our parents were beaming with pride as she described the experience in animated detail. "And then the photographer said I had the perfect look for their cover," Emma exclaimed, her eyes shining with excitement. My parents' faces lit up with admiration. "That's amazing, Emma. We're so proud of you," my mother said, giving her a tight hug. My heart sank as I watched the scene unfold. Clutching my certificate and ribbon, I felt my earlier excitement deflate. I wanted to share my success, to feel the same pride and joy from my parents, but the timing seemed all wrong. Not wanting to interrupt Emma's moment, I quietly slipped into my room and gently placed the certificate and ribbon in a drawer. Sitting on my bed, I stared at the drawer, feeling a mix of disappointment and frustration. It wasn't that I begrudged Emma her achievements. I just wished that, for once, I could have a moment where I felt truly seen and celebrated. Later that evening, as I sat at the dinner table, my parents continued to talk about Emma's photo shoot. I listened silently, trying to push away the feelings of resentment that were bubbling up inside me. When there was finally a lull in the conversation, I mustered the courage to speak up. "Mom, Dad, I won first place in the art contest today," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. They turned to look at me, their expressions shifting from excitement to polite interest. "That's wonderful, Lily," my father said with a smile. "Congratulations." "Yes, we're very proud of you, sweetheart," my mother added. But their enthusiasm didn't match the excitement they had shown for Emma's news. The conversation quickly shifted back to Emma's photo shoot, leaving me feeling once again overshadowed. As I cleared the dinner table that night, I thought about Mrs. Thompson's encouraging words and the applause I had received at the art contest. Despite my parents' subdued reaction, I reminded myself that my achievement was important and valuable. I had worked hard and earned my success, and I needed to hold on to that sense of pride, even if it wasn't fully recognized at home. In the quiet of my room, I took out the certificate and ribbon again, placing them on my desk where I could see them. They were a reminder of my talent and my potential, a beacon of hope in the midst of my struggle to find my place in a world that often seemed to favor my sister. As I lay in bed that night, I vowed to keep pursuing my passions and to celebrate my own victories, no matter how small they might seem to others. Middle school was a time of significant change for both Emma and me. As we transitioned from childhood to adolescence, the differences between us became even more pronounced. Puberty brought with it a host of physical and emotional changes, and Emma's beauty seemed to blossom overnight. She grew taller, her figure became more defined, and her golden hair and striking blue eyes only became more captivating. It was as if she had stepped out of a magazine, effortlessly embodying the ideal of beauty. With her blossoming beauty came increased attention from boys. Emma was constantly surrounded by admirers, her locker decorated with love notes and flowers. She received invitations to dances, parties, and other social events, becoming a fixture in the middle school social scene. It was clear that Emma enjoyed the attention, and she navigated these new social dynamics with the same ease and charm that had always defined her. I, on the other hand, experienced puberty in a more subdued way. My growth spurt was less dramatic, and my appearance remained relatively unchanged. My curly brown hair and hazel eyes were considered cute, rather than stunning, and I was often overlooked in favor of my sister's striking beauty. I was quieter, more reserved, and focused on my academics and hobbies. While Emma thrived in the social spotlight, I found solace in my studies and my artwork. As Emma's popularity grew, so did her involvement in modeling and beauty pageants. She was scouted by a local modeling agency and began participating in photo shoots and competitions. Our parents were thrilled and supportive, attending every event and cheering her on from the sidelines. Emma's room quickly filled with trophies, sashes, and framed photos from her modeling gigs. She was becoming a local celebrity, and our parents couldn't have been prouder. As high school came to an end, Emma and I found ourselves at a crossroads. Emma had decided to fully pursue her modeling and acting career, a path that had always seemed destined for her. With her undeniable beauty and charisma, she had already made significant strides in the industry. Offers from modeling agencies and casting directors came pouring in, and soon, she was traveling across the country for various gigs and auditions. Our parents were immensely proud of her achievements and supported her every step of the way. I, on the other hand, had chosen a different path. My passion for art and literature had only grown stronger over the years, and I decided to attend a liberal arts college that offered excellent programs in both fields. While Emma's world was filled with glitz and glamour, mine was more subdued but equally fulfilling. I looked forward to immersing myself in my studies, exploring new ideas, and honing my creative skills. The first day of college was a mix of excitement and nervousness. The campus was buzzing with energy as students moved into their dorms and attended orientation events. I felt a sense of independence and freedom that I hadn't experienced before. My dorm room was small but cozy, decorated with posters of famous paintings and stacks of books. It was my own little sanctuary where I could escape into my world of creativity. College life was a transformative experience for me. I quickly immersed myself in my classes, eager to learn and grow. The professors were passionate and knowledgeable, and I found myself inspired by their teachings. My art classes allowed me to experiment with different mediums and techniques, while my literature courses opened my mind to new perspectives and ideas. I also developed close friendships with my fellow students. We bonded over late-night study sessions, shared interests, and the ups and downs of college life. My roommate Sarah was a kind and supportive friend who shared my love for art. We often spent hours in the art studio, working on our projects and discussing our dreams and aspirations. One of the most significant aspects of my college experience was meeting Mark. We met during our sophomore year in a creative writing class. Mark was an English major with a passion for poetry and storytelling. He had a quiet, introspective demeanor that drew me in, and we quickly became friends. Our friendship blossomed into a romantic relationship, and soon, we were inseparable. Mark was a constant source of support and encouragement. He appreciated my artistic talents and often attended my gallery showings and readings. We spent countless hours discussing literature, art, and our future aspirations. Mark's gentle nature and thoughtful insights helped me gain confidence in myself and my abilities. Our relationship continued to grow, and I found myself falling deeply in love with him. Mark's presence in my life was a calming influence, and he helped me navigate the challenges of college with grace and resilience. With him by my side, I felt more confident and capable than ever before. While my college years were filled with personal growth and new experiences, my relationship with Emma became more strained. Her modeling and acting career had taken off, and she was living a glamorous life that seemed worlds apart from mine. Emma's success brought her fame and recognition, and she often appeared in magazines and on television. She attended red carpet events, mingled with celebrities, and traveled to exotic locations for photo shoots. Despite our different paths, Emma and I stayed in touch. She would occasionally visit me at college, bringing with her a whirlwind of excitement and glamour. During her visits, she would regale me with stories of her adventures, describing the luxurious parties, the famous people she had met, and the exciting projects she was working on. While I was genuinely happy for her, these visits also brought up old insecurities for me. One particular visit stands out in my memory. Emma had just returned from a photo shoot in Paris, and she decided to surprise me with a visit. She arrived on campus in a sleek car, dressed in designer clothes and carrying a suitcase full of gifts. As we walked through the campus, students turned their heads to look at her, captivated by her beauty and presence. "Paris was incredible, Lily," she said, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "The Eiffel Tower, the fashion shows, the food, everything was just perfect. And guess what? I met a famous director who wants to cast me in his next film." "That's amazing, Emma," I replied, trying to sound enthusiastic. "I'm really happy for you." As we continued our walk, Emma's stories of her glamorous life filled the air. I couldn't help but feel a pang of jealousy and inadequacy. While Emma was living a life of excitement and adventure, I was focused on my studies and navigating the challenges of college. It was hard not to compare our lives and feel like I was falling short. That evening, as we sat in my dorm room, Emma noticed the stack of books and art supplies on my desk. "You always were the creative one, Lily," she said with a smile. "I wish I had your talent for art." I appreciated her compliment, but it didn't fully alleviate my feelings of insecurity. Despite my achievements and the personal growth I had experienced in college, I still struggled with the constant comparisons to Emma. It was a lingering shadow that I couldn't quite escape. As the years went by, I continued to focus on my studies and my relationship with Mark. I knew that I needed to find my own identity and create a life that was true to myself. College was an opportunity for me to explore my passions and develop my skills, and I was determined to make the most of it. One of the most rewarding experiences of my college years was participating in a study abroad program. I spent a semester in Italy, immersing myself in the rich culture and history of the country. The experience was transformative, allowing me to gain new perspectives and deepen my understanding of art and literature. I visited famous museums, studied the works of Renaissance masters, and filled my sketchbook with drawings of the beautiful landscapes and architecture. Italy also provided a sense of independence and self-discovery. Away from the familiar environment of home and college, I had the opportunity to reflect on my life and my aspirations. I realized that I didn't need to compare myself to Emma or anyone else. My worth wasn't defined by external validation or recognition, but by my own efforts and passions. When I returned from Italy, I felt a renewed sense of purpose and confidence. I threw myself into my final year of college, determined to make the most of my remaining time. I completed my senior thesis, a collection of paintings and essays that explored the intersection of art and literature. The project was a culmination of my years of study and personal growth, and it received high praise from my professors. As graduation approached, Emma decided to visit me once again. She had just finished filming her first major movie and was excited to share the news with me. Her arrival brought a mix of emotions, happiness to see my sister, but also a sense of dread about the inevitable comparisons. Emma arrived on campus with her usual flair, instantly attracting attention wherever she went. Her presence was magnetic, drawing eyes and admiration as she moved through the crowd with grace and confidence. We spent the day catching up, and she shared vibrant stories of her experiences on set, the interesting people she had met, and the exciting opportunities that lay ahead. I listened intently, a mix of admiration and envy swirling within me, struggling to reconcile my complex feelings. That evening, we attended a small gathering with some of my friends. The atmosphere was lively, filled with chatter and laughter. As we mingled, I couldn't help but notice the way people gravitated towards Emma, captivated by her effortless charm and stunning beauty. She seemed to shine even brighter in social settings, her laughter infectious and her stories enthralling everyone around her. Despite the twinge of jealousy I found comfort in having Mark by my side. His presence grounded me, offering a reassuring contrast to Emma's dazzling allure. As the night wore on, I appreciated Mark's steady support, his quiet strength providing a sense of stability amidst the whirlwind of Emma's charisma. From the moment I met Mark, our relationship felt like something out of a beautifully written novel. We met during our sophomore year in a creative writing class, and it didn't take long for me to be drawn to his quiet, introspective nature. Mark had a passion for poetry and storytelling, and his gentle demeanor and thoughtful insights quickly captured my heart. Our friendship began with long conversations after class. We would sit in the campus cafe sipping on coffee and discussing our favorite books, authors, and the themes that resonated most with us. Mark's love for poetry was evident in the way he spoke, his words carefully chosen and imbued with a depth of meaning. I found myself looking forward to these moments, cherishing the time we spent together. One crisp autumn afternoon, Mark invited me to a poetry reading at a local bookstore. The intimate setting, with its dim lighting and the faint scent of old books, created a cozy atmosphere. As we listened to the poets recite their works, I felt a sense of connection and understanding with Mark that I had never experienced before. After the reading, we walked through the city streets, the leaves crunching under our feet, and talked about our dreams and aspirations. It was during this walk that Mark shyly admitted his feelings for me, and I realized that I felt the same way. Our relationship blossomed from there. Mark's presence in my life was a calming influence, and he helped me navigate the challenges of college with grace and resilience. We spent countless hours together, studying, attending art exhibits, and exploring the city. Mark's support and encouragement were unwavering, and he often attended my gallery showings and readings, always the first to offer a kind word or a thoughtful critique. One of my favorite memories from those early days was a spontaneous road trip we took during spring break. We decided to visit a small coastal town known for its picturesque beaches and vibrant art scene. The drive was filled with laughter and music, as we sang along to our favorite songs and shared stories from our childhoods. When we arrived, we spent our days wandering through art galleries, collecting seashells on the beach, and watching the sunset over the ocean. In the evenings, we would sit on the balcony of our little beach cottage, wrapped in blankets, and talk for hours under the stars. It was during this trip that I realized just how deeply I had fallen in love with Mark. Mark had a way of making me feel truly seen and appreciated. He valued my creativity and intelligence, and he often reminded me of my worth, especially during moments of self-doubt. His love was a steady, unwavering force that gave me the confidence to pursue my passions and believe in myself. With him by my side, I felt empowered to take risks and embrace new opportunities. Our relationship wasn't without its challenges, of course. There were times when the pressures of school and our individual ambitions created tension, but we always managed to find our way back to each other. Communication was key, and Mark's patient, understanding nature made it easier for us to navigate any obstacles that came our way. We learned to support each other's dreams and celebrate each other's successes, knowing that our love was strong enough to withstand any difficulties. One particularly challenging period came during our senior year, when I was working on my senior thesis, a collection of paintings and essays exploring the intersection of art and literature. The project was incredibly demanding, and there were times when I felt overwhelmed and unsure of myself. Mark was my rock during this time, offering a listening ear, words of encouragement, and practical support. He would bring me coffee during late-night work sessions, help me organize my thoughts, and remind me to take breaks and care for myself. His unwavering belief in me gave me the strength to persevere and complete the project. As I graduated, Mark and I began to discuss our future together. We knew that the transition from college to the real world would bring new challenges, but we were committed to facing them together. Mark had been accepted into a prestigious graduate program for creative writing, and I had been offered a position as an art instructor at a local community center. We were excited about the opportunities ahead, and the chance to continue growing both individually and as a couple. Our love deepened as we navigated the post-college world. We moved into a small apartment together, filling it with books, art supplies, and the memories we had collected over the years. We continued to support each other's passions. Mark attended my art exhibits, and I went to his poetry readings. Our shared love for creativity and storytelling was a constant source of inspiration and connection. One of the most memorable moments of our post-college life was a surprise trip that Mark planned for our anniversary. He had arranged for us to visit a secluded cabin in the mountains, a place where we could escape the hustle and bustle of city life and reconnect with nature. The cabin was nestled in a lush forest, with a clear, babbling brook nearby and a stunning view of the mountains. We spent our days hiking through the woods, exploring hidden trails, and marveling at the beauty of the natural world. In the evenings, we would sit by the fireplace, sipping hot cocoa and sharing our hopes and dreams for the future. It was during this trip that Mark proposed, presenting me with a simple, elegant ring that he had designed himself. His proposal was heartfelt and sincere, a reflection of the deep love and commitment we shared. I joyfully accepted, and we spent the rest of the evening celebrating our engagement under the stars. Our journey towards self-acceptance and confidence in our careers continued to evolve. I found immense fulfillment in my role as an art instructor, helping students discover their own creative potential. Mark's graduate program challenged him to refine his craft, and he began to gain recognition for his poetry. We faced new challenges and uncertainties, but our love remained a constant, guiding us through every twist and turn. My journey towards self-acceptance and confidence in my career was deeply intertwined with my relationship with Mark. His unwavering support and belief in me were instrumental in helping me overcome the insecurities that had plagued me for so long. One of the most significant steps in my journey was the decision to pursue a master's degree in art therapy. Combining my love for art with a desire to help others, I found a sense of purpose and fulfillment that was profoundly rewarding. The program was rigorous, but it allowed me to explore new dimensions of my creativity and develop a deeper understanding of the therapeutic power of art. Throughout my studies, Mark was my biggest cheerleader. He celebrated my successes and provided comfort during moments of doubt. His encouragement gave me the confidence to push myself and take risks, knowing that he believed in my abilities even when I struggled to believe in myself. My first internship as an art therapist was both challenging and transformative. I worked with a diverse group of clients, each with their own unique stories and struggles. Through my work, I witnessed the incredible impact that art could have on individuals' emotional and mental well-being. It was a humbling and inspiring experience that reinforced my commitment to this field. One particularly memorable client was a young girl named Mia, who had experienced significant trauma and struggled with severe anxiety. Through our sessions, Mia began to express her feelings and experiences through her artwork. Watching her transformation and growth was deeply moving, and it affirmed my belief in the power of art therapy. Mia's progress also mirrored my own journey toward self-acceptance, as I learned to trust in my skills and embrace my role as a therapist. My confidence continued to grow as I completed my degree and began working as a full-time art therapist. I developed strong relationships with my clients and colleagues, and I found immense satisfaction in helping others heal and find their own paths to self-acceptance. My work was challenging, but it was also incredibly rewarding, and I felt a deep sense of fulfillment in my career. Throughout this journey, Mark remained a steadfast presence in my life. We continued to support each other's dreams and aspirations, celebrating our individual successes and navigating challenges together. Our relationship was built on a foundation of love, trust, and mutual respect, and it only grew stronger with time. As I reflected on my journey, I realized that my path to self-acceptance and confidence was not just about achieving external success. It was about embracing my unique talents and passions, believing in my worth, and finding joy in the process. With Mark's love and support, I had learned to see myself through a lens of compassion and self-respect, and it was a lesson that would stay with me for the rest of my life. The days of love between Mark and me were a beautiful tapestry of shared experiences, challenges, and triumphs. Our relationship was a source of strength and inspiration, guiding us through the complexities of life and helping us grow both individually and as a couple. As I looked towards the future, I felt a deep sense of gratitude for the love we shared and the journey we had embarked on together. With Mark by my side, I knew that I could face any challenge and continue to pursue my dreams with confidence and resilience. The day of the outing with Mark and his friends had arrived, and I was filled with a mix of excitement and nervousness. This was a significant moment for us, as we planned to reveal the exciting news of our upcoming marriage to his close-knit group. Mark had organized a small gathering at a charming lakeside cabin, a picturesque location perfect for such an announcement. The cabin was nestled among tall pine trees, with a serene view of the lake that shimmered under the late afternoon sun. As we drove to the cabin, Mark and I chatted about the details of our wedding plans, our excitement palpable. He reached over and squeezed my hand, his eyes filled with love and anticipation. "This is going to be great, Lily. They're going to be so happy for us," he said reassuringly. When we arrived, we were greeted by the warm smiles and friendly banter of Mark's friends. It was my first time meeting most of them, and I was eager to make a good impression. We settled into the cozy living area, which was decorated with rustic furniture and adorned with fairy lights that added a magical touch to the evening. As the evening progressed, the atmosphere grew livelier. We enjoyed a delicious dinner, prepared by Mark's friend Alex, who was an excellent cook. The table was filled with an array of dishes, from grilled vegetables to succulent steaks, and the conversation flowed easily. There was a sense of camaraderie and warmth that made me feel welcome, despite my initial nerves. After dinner, we moved to the spacious deck overlooking the lake. The sun had begun to set, casting a golden glow over the water. Mark and I exchanged a glance, knowing it was the perfect moment to share our news. He stood up, drawing everyone's attention. "Hey everyone, can I have your attention for a moment?" Mark began, his voice filled with excitement. "Lily and I have some news we'd like to share with you all." The group quieted down, all eyes on us. I felt a rush of anticipation as Mark continued. "We're getting married," he announced, his face lighting up with joy. There was a moment of stunned silence, followed by a chorus of cheers and applause. His friends rushed to congratulate us, and I felt a warm sense of acceptance and happiness. We toasted to our future, clinking glasses of champagne and exchanging hugs. As the celebration continued, everyone settled back into their seats, drinks in hand. The conversation turned to lighter topics, and we began to share stories and laugh. At some point, the topic of siblings came up, and one of Mark's friends, Jenna, asked me about my family. "So Lily, do you have any siblings?" she inquired, her tone genuinely curious. "Yes, I have an older sister Emma," I replied smiling. "She's a model and actress." The mention of Emma seemed to pique everyone's interest. "Wow, A model and actress. That's impressive, Jenna remarked. It was at this moment that Mark, who had been enjoying a few drinks, chimed in loudly. If you guys think Lily is pretty, you should see her sister, he exclaimed, a broad grin on his face. He then pulled out his phone and began scrolling through Emma's Instagram, showing photos to everyone at the table. The reaction was immediate and predictable. They were all in awe, commenting on how stunning she looked. She's gorgeous. Wow, she could be a supermodel. No wonder she's in the industry. I felt a knot tighten in my stomach, my heart sinking. The evening, which had started so beautifully, now felt tainted. Mark's comment and the subsequent admiration for Emma's photos made me feel small and insignificant. I forced a smile, trying to hide my discomfort, but inside, I was reeling. As the night continued, I couldn't shake the feeling of humiliation that washed over me. Mark's words echoed in my mind, a harsh reminder of the insecurities I had battled for so long. The constant comparisons to Emma, the feeling of being overshadowed, it all came rushing back in that moment. I tried to engage in the conversation, but my mind was elsewhere. I felt a growing sense of resentment and hurt. It wasn't just about the comment itself, but the realization that even my own boyfriend seemed to find Emma more attractive than me. It was a painful confirmation of my deepest fears. Mark, seemingly oblivious to my distress, continued to laugh and chat with his friends. I watched him, feeling a mixture of anger and sadness. How could he not see how much his comment had hurt me? How could he not understand the weight of his words? Eventually, I excused myself and went inside, needing a moment to collect my thoughts. I stood in the kitchen, staring out the window at the darkening lake, feeling tears prick at the corners of my eyes. The evening, which was supposed to be a joyous celebration, had turned into a painful reminder of my insecurities and the constant comparisons I couldn't escape. When the gathering finally wound down and Mark and I headed to bed, the silence between us was heavy. As we lay in the darkness, I couldn't hold back any longer. Mark, I began, my voice trembling. Why did you say that about Emma tonight? He turned to face me, confusion written across his face. What do you mean? You said if everyone thinks I'm pretty they should see my sister, I explained, my voice breaking. Then you showed them her photos. Do you have any idea how that made me feel? Realization dawned on his face, and he reached out to take my hand. Lily, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean it like that. But that's how it felt, I said, pulling my hand away. It felt like you were saying she's more beautiful than me, like I'm not enough. And in front of all your friends. It was humiliating. Mark's expression softened, and he looked genuinely remorseful. I didn't think about it that way. I was just trying to show them how amazing your family is. I'm really sorry, Lily. You know I love you and think you're beautiful. His words, though sincere, did little to ease the pain. The damage had been done, and I couldn't simply brush it off. It's not just about tonight, I said quietly. It's about always being compared to Emma. I thought you understood how hard that is for me. I do understand, Mark insisted. I was just being stupid and careless. Please forgive me. I didn't mean to hurt you. I wanted to believe him, to let go of the hurt and move on, but the comment had struck a deep nerve. It wasn't something I could easily forget. I need some time, I said finally. I need to process this. Mark nodded, his eyes filled with regret. Take all the time you need, Lily. I'll be here when you're ready to talk. The days following the outing were difficult. The comment replayed in my mind, a constant reminder of my insecurities. I found myself avoiding social media, not wanting to see Emma's photos and the flood of admiration they always garnered. I distanced myself from Mark, needing space to sort through my feelings. Mark tried to make amends in various ways, leaving me sweet notes, planning thoughtful gestures, and repeatedly apologizing. While I appreciated his efforts, the wound was still fresh, and I struggled to move past it. I confided in my close friends, seeking their perspective and support. They were understanding and empathetic, reassuring me of my worth and beauty. Lily, you're an incredible person, Sarah, my best friend, said one afternoon over coffee. Mark loves you for who you are. He made a mistake, but that doesn't change how amazing you are. Their words were comforting, but the internal struggle remained. I can't escape the constant comparisons to her, and I don't think I ever will. It's exhausting. How do I overcome these insecurities? Additionally, as I reflected on my journey and the experiences that had shaped my relationship with Mark, I found myself drawn to the comments and perspectives shared by others who had heard my story. These insights, coming from an external point of view, provided a fresh lens through which I could see my situation more clearly. It was as if they were holding up a mirror, allowing me to confront the realities I had been avoiding. Here are some of those reflections. One commenter noted, 36 is too old for that kind of foot-and-mouth syndrome with a partner, even if alcohol is involved. Not only is he too old to not know better, but it's not even a foot-and-mouth situation. He didn't just casually acknowledge that OP's sister was beautiful, he basically insulted his girlfriend and proceeded to show off her sister to his friends for their approval. If this is the way he acts in front of his girlfriend, one can only imagine what he acts like behind her back. This comment hit me hard. It underscored the gravity of Mark's actions and made me realize that his behavior was not just a careless mistake. It was a deeper issue of respect and understanding. At his age, Mark should have known better than to make such a hurtful comment, especially in a public setting. Another commenter wrote, "Now you know that even if he didn't mean it like that, he certainly meant it enough to publicly show off your sister to impress his friends. Imagine what the future will be like with this guy. Hey everybody, come check out this gorgeous woman I know. No, not my wife, her sister." He actually pulled out his phone to show off another woman at a meeting where he was introducing his girlfriend. This one isn't the one, OP. I can assure you the right one around the corner will be mortified when you tell him this story. This perspective made me envision a future filled with similar humiliations. The idea that Mark would prioritize impressing his friends over respecting my feelings was a sobering thought. It made me question whether I wanted to spend my life with someone who might continue to undermine my self-esteem. A third commenter shared their personal experience. "Leave him. I have a beautiful sister also. She is stunning, and I am not. I am cute also. But my husband finds me beautiful and doesn't see the beauty of my sister. He has never compared me to her and never stared at her. He honestly doesn't get the hype of her, but tells me constantly how beautiful I am. You need to find a man like that. There is someone out there who will find you more beautiful than your sister. But it isn't the one you're with now. Leave him and find someone better." This heartfelt advice resonated deeply with me. It gave me hope that there was someone out there who would truly appreciate me for who I am, without making hurtful comparisons. The idea of being with someone who saw my unique beauty and valued me above all others was incredibly comforting. These comments and reflections were eye-opening. They forced me to confront some difficult truths about my relationship with Mark. While his efforts to apologize and make amends were sincere, the underlying issues of respect and understanding remained unresolved. It became clear that I needed to reevaluate what I wanted and deserved in a relationship. The story narrates a journey fraught with insecurities, emotional turmoil, and ultimately, self-discovery. At its core lies a poignant lesson about the importance of self-acceptance and recognizing one's intrinsic worth. The protagonist, Lily, grapples with a lifetime of comparison to her stunning sister Emma. From childhood to adulthood, she feels overshadowed by Emma's beauty, leading to deep-seated feelings of inadequacy and self-doubt. However, as the story unfolds, Lily embarks on a journey of self-exploration and growth, guided by the support of her friends and the insights gained through therapy. Central to the narrative is the impact of external validation on one's sense of self-worth. Lily's experiences with Mark, her boyfriend, highlight the profound effect that thoughtless comments can have on a person's confidence. Mark's ill-considered remark about Emma during a social outing triggers a cascade of emotions in Lily, underscoring the fragility of her self-esteem. The incident serves as a catalyst for reflection, prompting Lily to confront her insecurities and reevaluate her relationship with Mark. Through Lily's journey, the story underscores the importance of mutual respect and empathy in relationships. Mark's failure to consider the implications of his words demonstrates a lack of sensitivity and understanding towards Lily's feelings. This serves as a poignant reminder that respect is not just about avoiding deliberate acts of harm, but also about acknowledging and honoring a partner's vulnerabilities. Lily's decision to address the issue directly with Mark underscores the significance of open communication in fostering healthy relationships. Moreover, the story highlights the transformative power of self-awareness and personal growth. Lily's journey towards self-acceptance is not without its challenges, but it is through confronting her insecurities head-on that she begins to reclaim her sense of self-worth. With the support of her friends, Lily learns to embrace her individuality and celebrate her unique qualities. The narrative also underscores the importance of surrounding oneself with a supportive network of friends and loved ones. Lily's friends serve as a source of strength and encouragement, offering empathy and understanding during her moments of vulnerability. Their unwavering support empowers Lily to confront her insecurities and make decisions that prioritize her emotional well-being. This emphasizes the transformative power of human connection in overcoming personal challenges and fostering resilience. Ultimately, the story culminates in a powerful realization about the necessity of setting boundaries and prioritizing self-care. Lily's decision to end her relationship with Mark symbolizes a turning point in her journey towards self-empowerment. In conclusion, the story encapsulates a profound lesson about the importance of self-acceptance, respect in relationships, open communication, the support of loved ones, and the necessity of setting boundaries. Through Lily's journey, We are reminded of the transformative power of introspection, empathy, and human connection in navigating life's challenges and embracing our true selves. It is through confronting our insecurities with courage and compassion that we can ultimately find the strength to live authentically and pursue happiness on our own terms. My husband accuses me of discriminating against him because of his autism. Am I actually doing that? My name is Emily, a 25-year-old woman married to Danny, who is 36. Our relationship has always been a complex blend of love, challenges, and constant learning, primarily because Danny has autism. While Danny's condition isn't severe, he falls somewhere in the middle of the spectrum. This means he can function relatively independently, but he has his quirks and challenges that demand understanding and patience. Growing up, I had a unique insight into the world of autism. My older brother Jake was high on the spectrum. His needs were intense, and my family had to adapt to accommodate him. From a young age, I learned how to navigate meltdowns, create structured environments, and communicate in ways that made sense to him. These experiences shaped me, making me patient and empathetic. When I met Danny, I believed I was well prepared for any challenges his autism might present. Danny and I met at a mutual friends gathering. He was charming, intelligent, and we clicked almost instantly. His autism was never a secret. He was open about it from the beginning. I admired his honesty and resilience. Over time, our relationship deepened, and we got married. I felt confident that my background with Jake had equipped me to handle life with Danny. However, Danny's autism manifested differently from Jake's. One of the most challenging aspects of living with Danny is his extreme pickiness, especially when it comes to food. Danny has a very particular way of eating, and any deviation from his routine can trigger a significant reaction. For instance, if even a tiny piece of cheese or sauce touches the wrong part of his plate, he refuses to eat. It's not just about preference. It's an overwhelming sensory issue that he cannot control. His food aversions are so severe that he uses special plates designed for toddlers. These silicone plates have dividers that separate the different parts of his meal. Because they are small, he uses 2 plates to have an adult-sized portion. At first, this seemed like a simple solution, but it has become a daily test of my patience and adaptability. When things don't go as expected with his food, Danny's reactions can be intense and alarming. He can get aggressive quickly, a response that I understand is more about his struggle with sudden changes and less about anger. He has thrown and kicked things in frustration more times than I can count. After these episodes, he is always remorseful, often breaking down in tears and apologizing profusely. He hates losing control, and it breaks my heart to see him in such distress. Despite these challenges, I love Danny deeply. I have always believed that with enough understanding and patience, we could navigate any issue that arises. But living with Danny's autism has tested me in ways I never anticipated. I constantly walk a tightrope, trying to balance empathy with self-preservation. It was a typical Tuesday evening, and I found myself in the kitchen, carefully preparing one of Danny's favorite meals, spaghetti bolognese. Cooking for Danny always required a meticulous approach, given his extreme pickiness and sensitivity to how food was presented. I had become adept at navigating these challenges, ensuring that each meal was prepared to his exact specifications to avoid any potential meltdowns. Our kitchen, though modest in size, was my sanctuary. I found a strange sense of peace in the rhythmic chopping of vegetables, the bubbling of the sauce on the stove, and the scent of garlic and herbs filling the air. That night, I was particularly focused, knowing how much Danny loved this dish. I had everything ready. The spaghetti was boiling to the perfect al dente texture. The rich bolognese sauce simmered gently, and the garlic bread toasted to a golden brown in the oven. Danny had these special silicone plates with dividers, reminiscent of those used for toddlers, to keep his food components separate. It was one of the many adaptations we had implemented to accommodate his needs. While these plates were somewhat cumbersome for an adult portion, they were essential for maintaining Danny's comfort during meals. I set out 2 plates, filling each section with care, a generous portion of spaghetti in one, a heap of bolognese sauce in another, and a slice of garlic bread in the third. As I completed the preparations, I felt a sense of accomplishment. Cooking for Danny was not just about feeding him, it was an act of love, a way of showing that I understood and accepted his needs. I placed the plates on the counter and called out to Danny, who was in the living room. He responded with a cheerful, "Thanks, babe," and came into the kitchen. But his mood shifted almost instantly. "Wait. I can't eat this. You know I can't." "Why?" His voice had a sharp edge to it that made me freeze. I turned to see what had gone wrong and noticed a small chunk of tomato from the bolognese had landed on the garlic bread. It was such a tiny mistake, but I knew the implications. My heart sank as I realized the meal I had so carefully prepared was now unacceptable to him. "Oh, sorry, why don't you eat the second plate and I'll split my food with you?" I began, trying to find a quick solution. But before I could finish, Danny's face twisted in frustration. He grabbed the first plate and, with a sudden burst of anger, slammed it onto the floor. The sound of the plate hitting the ground, followed by the splat and squelch of the food, was jarring. My heart raced, and I felt a mix of fear and frustration building inside me. Danny wasn't done. He picked up the second plate and threw it down as well, the spaghetti and sauce splattering across the kitchen tiles. He stood there, breathing heavily, a grin that seemed almost sinister spreading across his face. "Make it again. You know it pisses me off. Do I need to remind you I'm autistic?" His words stung, and I felt my blood boiling. The anger and hurt I had been suppressing for so long erupted. I had always tried to be patient, to understand his needs and accommodate them as best as I could. But in that moment, I felt like a dam had burst, releasing all the pent-up frustration and exhaustion. "Why are you fucking smiling?" I shouted, my voice shaking with emotion. "Your autism is more like assholeism. I'm not your maid, you can at least help." The words were out before I could stop them. I never swore, especially not at him. My work with children had ingrained a sense of calm and control in me, but now, I was completely unhinged. Danny's expression shifted from anger to shock, and for a moment, there was a tense silence between us. Then, his face hardened again. He flipped me off and spat out, "Ableist little bitch," before storming out of the kitchen and locking himself in our bedroom. The slam of the door echoed through the house, leaving me standing amidst the chaos, the remains of dinner scattered around me. I was trembling, my mind racing with conflicting emotions. Part of me was furious at his outburst, his disrespect, and his unwillingness to help or even try to understand my perspective. But another part of me was racked with guilt and self-doubt. Had I crossed a line? Was I truly being ableist, as he claimed? As I slowly began to clean up the mess, tears streamed down my face. The kitchen, my once peaceful sanctuary, now felt like a battlefield. I picked up the broken pieces of the silicone plates, wiped up the sauce, and salvaged what I could of the meal. My appetite was gone, replaced by a hollow feeling of despair. I left the cleaned plates on the counter, turned off the stove and took my plate of food to the living room. I sank into the couch, the silence of the house pressing down on me. I ate mechanically, the flavors of the bolognese that I usually savored now tasting bland and unappetizing. The weight of the evening's events settled heavily on my shoulders, and before I knew it, I had fallen asleep on the couch, exhausted both physically and emotionally. After I finished cleaning up the mess Danny had made, I felt utterly drained. The kitchen, which had always been my haven, was now just a stark reminder of the chaos and turmoil that had erupted earlier. The task of cleaning had been methodical, almost robotic, as I tried to distract myself from the swirling emotions inside me. Anger, frustration, and a deep sense of hurt mingled with an overwhelming fatigue. As I wiped the last traces of spaghetti sauce from the floor, I felt a hollow emptiness settle in my chest. Sitting on the couch with my plate of now cold spaghetti bolognese, I picked at my food, not really tasting it. The events of the evening replayed in my mind on an endless loop. Danny's angry outburst, the crash of the plates, his hateful words. It all felt surreal. I had never seen him like that before, and the intensity of his reaction had shaken me to my core. My own words, spoken in a moment of uncharacteristic anger, echoed back at me, filling me with a profound sense of guilt. As I lay down on the couch, exhaustion overtook me. The emotional toll of the evening had left me depleted, and I quickly drifted off to sleep, hoping that a new day would bring some clarity. When I awoke, the first thing I noticed was the stillness of the house. It was eerily quiet, and the absence of Danny's presence was palpable. I sat up, my body stiff from sleeping on the couch, and glanced at my phone. There was a message from Danny. "You need to be more open-minded to my disability and realize the world doesn't revolve around you. I hope this can be fixed when I'm home later." Reading his words, I felt a fresh wave of guilt and confusion. Was I truly being ableist? Had I failed to understand and accommodate his needs? The accusation stung, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I had somehow let him down. My mind raced as I tried to make sense of everything that had happened. The guilt gnawed at me, interwoven with anger and resentment. As I sat there, the morning light filtering through the windows, I began to reflect on my behavior and our relationship. Danny's autism was a significant part of our lives, and I had always prided myself on being patient and understanding. But had I crossed a line last night? My outburst was so unlike me, and it frightened me to think that I had lost control in such a manner. I thought about the countless times I had carefully prepared his meals, ensuring everything was just right to avoid triggering his sensory issues. I remembered the moments of tenderness, the times he had apologized after a meltdown, and the deep love I felt for him despite the challenges. But there were also moments of frustration, times when I felt overwhelmed by the demands of accommodating his needs. Last night's incident had brought all those buried emotions to the surface, and I couldn't ignore them any longer. Had I been too harsh? Was I being unfair in expecting him to manage his reactions better? These questions plagued me as I replayed the events in my mind. I had always believed that my background with my brother Jake had prepared me to handle Danny's autism, but maybe I had underestimated the emotional toll it was taking on me. I knew I couldn't go to work feeling this way. My job required me to be focused and attentive, and in my current state, I was anything but. I decided to call in sick, knowing I needed time to sort through my thoughts and emotions. I needed to reassess my relationship with Danny and figure out a way forward. Taking a deep breath, I made the call to my supervisor, explaining that I wasn't feeling well and needed the day off. After hanging up, I felt a slight sense of relief. The day stretched out before me, and I resolved to use the time to think and reflect. I spent the morning cleaning the house, trying to bring some order to my surroundings in the hope that it would help clear my mind. As I tidied up, I thought about the patterns in our relationship. Danny's outbursts had become more frequent, and my patience was wearing thin. I loved him deeply, but I couldn't ignore the toll it was taking on my own mental health. After cleaning, I sat down with a book, hoping to distract myself. But my mind kept drifting back to the previous night. I couldn't escape the feeling that something fundamental had shifted between us. The trust and understanding that had been the foundation of our relationship now seemed fragile and uncertain. In the afternoon, I decided to take a long shower, letting the hot water soothe my tense muscles. As I stood there, I thought about the future. Could we work through this? Was it possible to find a balance where both of our needs were met? Or had we reached a breaking point? By the time I stepped out of the shower, I felt a bit more centered, but the questions remained. I knew I needed to talk to Danny, to try and understand his perspective and share my own feelings. But I also needed to be honest with myself about what I could and couldn't handle. Feeling overwhelmed and unsure of what to do next, I decided to reach out to my eldest brother, Eli. He had always been my rock, a constant source of support and wisdom. I hesitated for a moment, my finger hovering over his contact on my phone, but then I took a deep breath and dialed his number. "Eli, it's me," I said, my voice trembling slightly as I tried to hold back the tears. "I need to talk to you about something. Can we meet?" Without missing a beat, Eli replied, "Of course, Emily. Come over to my place, I'll be here." As I made my way to Eli's house, my mind raced with thoughts and emotions. The drive felt like an eternity, but finally I pulled up to his house and knocked on the door. Eli opened it almost immediately, his face filled with concern. "Come in, Emily," he said, ushering me inside and leading me to the living room. We sat down on the couch, and he looked at me expectantly. "What's going on?" I took a deep breath, trying to gather my thoughts. "It's Danny," I began. "We had a huge fight last night. He called me an ableist and I don't know what to do, Eli. I feel like everything is falling apart." Eli listened intently as I recounted the events of the previous night, from the spaghetti bolognese incident to Danny's angry outburst and his accusatory text message. He didn't interrupt, letting me pour out all my frustrations, fears and doubts. When I finished, Eli sighed and shook his head. "Emily, you've always been so patient and understanding. But it sounds like Danny's behavior is really taking a toll on you. You need to take care of yourself too, you know." His words struck a chord with me. I had always prided myself on being able to handle anything life threw at me, especially when it came to Danny's autism. But now, I was beginning to realize that I had been neglecting my own well-being in the process. "I just don't know if I can keep doing this," I admitted, my voice barely above a whisper. "I love Danny, but his outbursts are becoming more frequent, and I'm exhausted." Eli reached out and took my hand, giving it a reassuring squeeze. "Emily, you don't have to go through this alone. Why don't you stay here for a while? Take some time to think things over and figure out what you really want." The relief I felt at his offer was overwhelming. "Thank you, Eli. I think I need that. Just some time away to clear my head." As I packed a few essentials and settled into Eli's guest room, I couldn't help but reflect on past incidents with Danny. There had been numerous times when his reactions had seemed disproportionate, his anger flaring up over minor issues. Each time, I had chalked it up to his autism, telling myself that it was something I needed to accept and manage. But now, I was beginning to see a pattern that I had been blind to before. Danny's autism did not excuse his behavior, especially when it crossed the line into verbal abuse and aggression. I thought back to the early days of our relationship, when his quirks had seemed endearing, even charming. But as time went on, those quirks had become more pronounced, and the effort to accommodate them had grown increasingly burdensome. There were moments when Danny's demands felt unreasonable, his expectations of me pushing the limits of my patience and understanding. I had always tried to be the supportive wife, the one who could handle anything, But now I was realizing that my own needs and feelings were just as important. Staying at Eli's house provided me with the space and clarity I needed to reassess my relationship with Danny. I spent time with my nieces, their laughter and energy a welcome distraction from the heaviness that had settled in my heart. Eli and his wife Linda were incredibly supportive, giving me the time and space to process everything without pressure or judgment. As the days went by, I began to see things more clearly. My love for Danny had not diminished, but I recognized that I needed to set boundaries and prioritize my own well-being. It was not just about managing Danny's autism. It was about ensuring that our relationship was healthy and sustainable for both of us. After spending a few days at Eli's house and reflecting on my relationship with Danny, I realized that I needed to take decisive action for my own well-being. The constant stress and emotional turmoil were unsustainable, and I could no longer ignore the toll it was taking on me. With a heavy heart, I made the difficult decision to end my marriage with Danny. Eli was incredibly supportive, offering to help me pack up Danny's belongings and start the process of filing for divorce. We both knew that this was a necessary step, even though it was painful. I had tried my best to make things work, but the reality was that Danny's behavior was abusive, and I couldn't continue living in such an environment. One morning, Eli and I drove to my house to begin packing Danny's things. The house felt different, almost foreign, as if it no longer belonged to me. It was a strange mix of sadness and relief, knowing that I was taking a step toward reclaiming my life but also ending a significant chapter. Eli and I worked methodically, boxing up Danny's clothes, books and personal items. As I packed, memories of our time together flooded back, some happy, some painful. I felt a lump in my throat as I came across mementos from our early days, when everything seemed so promising. But I knew that holding on to those memories wouldn't change the present reality. We finished packing Danny's belongings and placed the boxes by the door. The house felt emptier, but also lighter. Eli put his hand on my shoulder, offering a silent message of support. I nodded, grateful for his presence. The next step was to start the process of filing for divorce. I had already done some research and knew the basic steps, but the reality of actually doing it felt daunting. Eli offered to come with me to the lawyer's office, and I gladly accepted his support. We made an appointment and, a few days later, found ourselves sitting in a lawyer's office, discussing the details of the divorce. As I signed the papers, a mixture of emotions washed over me. Sadness, relief, fear, and a small spark of hope for the future. This was a significant step toward reclaiming my life, but it was also the end of something I had once cherished deeply. After leaving the lawyer's office, I felt a bit numb. It was a lot to process, and I knew that the hardest part was still to come, telling Danny. I had decided to inform him over the phone, as I didn't feel safe having this conversation in person. I dialed his number with trembling hands, my heart pounding in my chest. Danny answered on the second ring. "Hey," he said, his tone neutral. "Hi Danny," I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. "I need to talk to you about something important." There was a brief silence before he responded. "What is it?" I took a deep breath. "I've decided to file for divorce. This isn't working, and I need to prioritize my own well-being. Eli and I have packed up your things. You can come by to pick them up whenever you're ready." For a moment, there was silence on the other end of the line. Then, Danny's voice erupted in anger. "Are you kidding me? You're abandoning me because of my autism? You're the one who can't handle it. This is abuse, Emily. You're abusing me." His words stung, but I reminded myself to stay calm. "Danny, this isn't about your autism. It's about your behavior. The outbursts, the aggression. It's not healthy for either of us. I can't keep living like this." Danny continued to yell, his accusations growing more hurtful. I felt tears welling up in my eyes, but before I could respond, Linda, Eli's wife, took the phone from my hand. "Listen here, Danny," she said firmly. "Emily has done everything she can to support you, but your behavior is unacceptable. This isn't about your autism, it's about how you treat her. She's making the right decision, and you need to accept it. Stop trying to manipulate her with guilt." There was a pause, and then Danny hung up. Linda handed the phone back to me and gave me a reassuring hug. "You did the right thing, Emily. Don't let him make you feel guilty." I nodded, grateful for her support. With Danny's reaction fresh in my mind, I knew I needed to take further steps to protect myself. The next morning, I called a locksmith to change the locks on my house. I couldn't risk Danny coming back and causing more trouble. The locksmith arrived promptly and worked efficiently. As he changed the locks, I felt a sense of security returning. This was my home, and I needed to feel safe in it. Once the new locks were in place, I felt a small but significant weight lift off my shoulders. I also decided to update my emergency contacts. Danny had been my primary contact for years, but that needed to change. I filled out the necessary forms and listed Eli as my new emergency contact. It was a small act, but it felt empowering to take back control of my life. As the days passed, I started to settle into my new reality. It wasn't easy, and there were moments when I doubted myself, wondering if I had made the right decision. But with the support of Eli, Linda, and my close friends, I began to rebuild my life. I focused on self-care, taking long walks, reading, and spending time with my nieces. Slowly, I started to feel more like myself again. The house, once filled with tension and fear, became a place of peace and healing. I knew that the journey ahead would be challenging, but I also knew that I had made the right choice. I had to prioritize my own well-being and create a life that was healthy and fulfilling. The process of filing for divorce and taking action to protect myself was the first step toward that goal. Through it all, I remained hopeful. I believed that one day, I would look back on this time and see it as a turning point, a moment when I chose to stand up for myself and create a better future. And with the support of my loved ones, I was confident that I could face whatever came next. Emily's story is a profound illustration of the complexities and emotional intricacies involved in relationships where one partner has autism. It's also a testament to the strength required to prioritize one's own well-being amidst overwhelming challenges. There are several key lessons that emerge from Emily's experience, each of which underscores the importance of understanding, patience, and ultimately, the necessity of setting boundaries to ensure mutual respect and health in a relationship. From the beginning, Emily's relationship with Danny was grounded in empathy and a deep understanding of his autism. Her background with her older brother, who was also on the autism spectrum, provided her with the patience and knowledge needed to support Danny's unique needs. This empathy was critical in helping her navigate Danny's pickiness with food and his sensory issues, ensuring that his environment was as comfortable and accommodating as possible. However, Emily's story teaches us that while empathy is essential, it has its limits. Supporting a partner with autism involves a significant emotional investment, and it's crucial to recognize when the balance tips towards self-neglect. Emily's constant efforts to cater to Danny's needs eventually led to emotional exhaustion. This exhaustion was compounded by Danny's aggressive outbursts, which were not only challenging but also damaging to her mental health. A pivotal moment in Emily's story is her realization that Danny's behavior, despite being linked to his autism, had crossed into abusive territory. His aggressive reactions, such as throwing plates and verbally attacking Emily, highlighted a pattern of behavior that was harmful and unacceptable. This recognition was painful but necessary for Emily to understand the broader dynamics at play in their relationship. It's important to differentiate between behaviors that stem from a disability and those that constitute abuse. While Danny's autism explained some of his reactions, it did not excuse them, especially when they caused significant emotional harm to Emily. This distinction is vital for anyone in a similar situation, as it underscores the need to protect oneself from harmful behavior, regardless of its origin. Throughout her ordeal, Emily found solace and strength in her support system, particularly her eldest brother, Eli. Eli's unwavering support provided Emily with the clarity and encouragement she needed to make difficult decisions. His practical help in packing Danny's belongings and his emotional support were instrumental in helping Emily navigate this challenging period. The lesson here is clear. Having a robust support system is crucial when facing personal crises. Friends and family can offer perspective, practical assistance, and emotional reassurance, helping to alleviate the burden of difficult decisions. Emily's ability to lean on Eli and his wife, Linda, demonstrates the importance of surrounding oneself with people who genuinely care and are willing to help. One of the most significant lessons from Emily's story is the necessity of setting boundaries and prioritizing self-care. Emily's decision to file for divorce and change the locks on her home were acts of self-preservation and empowerment. These actions symbolized her reclaiming control over her life and environment, ensuring her safety and well-being. Setting boundaries is essential in any relationship, but it becomes even more critical when dealing with challenging behaviors linked to disabilities. It's important to communicate these boundaries clearly and to enforce them consistently. Emily's experience highlights that self-care is not selfish. It is a necessary component of a healthy, sustainable relationship. By prioritizing her own needs, Emily was able to begin the healing process and create a space for personal growth. As Emily reflected on her relationship with Danny, she gained valuable insights into the dynamics that had shaped their interactions. This introspection allowed her to understand where things had gone wrong, and what needed to change. Recognizing patterns of behavior and their impact is crucial for personal growth and for making informed decisions about future relationships. Emily's journey underscores the importance of learning from past experiences. By reflecting on what she had endured, she was able to identify the changes needed to build a healthier, more fulfilling life. This lesson is universally applicable. Taking the time to understand past mistakes and successes can provide valuable guidance for future actions. Emily's story is ultimately one of empowerment through self-advocacy. Despite the challenges and emotional turmoil, she found the strength to stand up for herself and make decisions that prioritized her well-being. Her journey from understanding and empathy to setting boundaries and seeking support is a powerful reminder that everyone deserves a relationship built on respect, mutual care, and emotional safety. The lessons from Emily's experience are clear. Understand and empathize, but recognize your limits. Differentiate between challenging behavior and abuse. Lean on your support system. Set and enforce boundaries. And reflect on the past to inform your future. By doing so, you can navigate even the most complex relationships while maintaining your sense of self and well-being. My wife doesn't want me to get pregnant through IVF because she doesn't want man's sperm in me, which really confuses me. My name is Emma, and I'm 27 years old. 7 years ago, in Copenhagen, my life changed in ways I could never have imagined. It was a vibrant city, full of life and possibilities, and I was a 20-year-old student, ready to embrace everything it had to offer. I was studying primary education, driven by my love for children and teaching. Little did I know that a simple party would introduce me to someone who would become the love of my life. It all started at a mutual friend's party during university. I had been hesitant to go, preferring quiet evenings with a book over loud gatherings. But a friend convinced me, insisting I needed to socialize more. The party was in a cozy apartment in central Copenhagen, filled with students laughing and chatting. I felt out of place, trying to find a corner where I could blend in with the background. That's when I noticed another girl doing the same. Her name was Sophia. She was standing alone on the balcony, looking at the city lights. Sophia had an air of quiet contemplation about her, as if she were lost in her own thoughts, away from the buzz of the party. Her dark hair fell in loose waves around her shoulders, and she wore a simple yet elegant dress that highlighted her natural beauty. There was something about her that drew me in, perhaps the way she seemed so comfortable in her solitude, or maybe it was the slight hint of a smile playing at the corners of her lips. I mustered the courage to join her. As I stepped onto the balcony, the cool night air embraced me, offering a welcome contrast to the warmth and noise inside. I greeted her, and she turned to look at me with curious dark eyes. Up close I could see the intelligence and warmth in her gaze. We exchanged a few polite words about the party and our mutual friend who had invited us. There was a natural ease to our conversation. A flow that felt both comforting and exciting. We started talking about our studies. Sophia was studying engineering, and as she spoke about her projects, her eyes lit up with passion. She described the challenges she faced in a male-dominated field and her determination to excel. I could see the dedication and drive in her, and it was inspiring. I shared my own experiences studying primary education, my love for teaching, and the joy I found in working with children. She listened intently, her genuine interest making me feel valued and understood. As we talked, I found myself drawn to her not just physically, but intellectually and emotionally. Sophia had a way of speaking that was both articulate and thoughtful. She expressed her ideas clearly and confidently, yet there was a humility about her that made her incredibly approachable. I admired her strength and the quiet resilience that seemed to underpin everything she did. We continued our conversation, moving from our studies to our future aspirations. Sophia spoke of her dreams to design sustainable energy solutions, hoping to make a difference in the world. I shared my hopes of becoming a teacher who could inspire and nurture young minds. There was a moment when our eyes met, and I felt a connection that was deeper than words. It was as if we had known each other for much longer than just a few minutes. The sounds of the party faded into the background as we became engrossed in our own little world. I felt completely at ease with Sophia, a sense of comfort and familiarity that was rare for me in social situations. She had a calming presence, and her thoughtful responses and insights made our conversation enriching and engaging. We eventually realized how much time had passed and decided to exchange contact information, not wanting to lose the connection we had just discovered. As I left the party that night, my mind was buzzing with thoughts of Sophia. There was something special about her, something that made me eager to see her again. After our initial meeting at the party, Sophia and I quickly became close friends. We started meeting up regularly, our favorite spots being cozy cafes and serene parks around Copenhagen. There was a quaint little cafe near our university that became our go-to place. It had an inviting atmosphere with warm lighting, comfortable chairs, and the smell of freshly brewed coffee lingering in the air. We would spend hours there, talking and laughing, losing track of time. Our conversations ranged from light-hearted topics to deeply personal stories. Sophia would share her experiences studying engineering, the challenges she faced as a woman in a male-dominated field, and her dreams of designing sustainable energy solutions. Her passion for her work was infectious, and I admired her determination and drive. I, in turn, talked about my love for teaching, the joys and frustrations of working with children, and my hopes of making a difference in young lives. Sophia listened intently, her genuine interest and encouragement making me feel valued and understood. We also bonded over our shared interests in classic literature and science fiction. We would recommend books to each other, discussing the characters and themes in great detail. There was something incredibly comforting about these shared moments, a sense of connection that went beyond words. As our friendship deepened, I started noticing the small quirks that made Sophia unique. The way she furrowed her brow when she was deep in thought, the soft chuckle that escaped her lips when she found something amusing, and the gentle way she would brush a stray lock of hair behind her ear. Each of these quirks made her more endearing to me. At the same time, Sophia seemed to appreciate my passion for teaching. She often told me how much she admired my dedication and the way I connected with my students. Her compliments meant a lot to me, and I found myself looking forward to our meetups more than anything else. As the months passed, my feelings for Sophia grew stronger. I found myself thinking about her constantly, my heart fluttering whenever we were together. I knew I had fallen in love with her, but the fear of ruining our friendship held me back. I was terrified that confessing my feelings would make things awkward between us, or worse, that she wouldn't feel the same way. One rainy afternoon, we were sitting in our favorite cafe. The soft jazz music playing in the background created a comforting atmosphere. I had been debating with myself for weeks, writing down my feelings in my journal, trying to muster the courage to tell her how I felt. My heart pounded as I decided to finally confess. "Sophia," I began, my voice trembling slightly. "There's something I need to tell you." She looked up from her coffee, her dark eyes filled with curiosity and concern. "I've been feeling this way for a while now, and I can't keep it to myself any longer. I love you. More than just a friend." As the words left my lips, a wave of anxiety washed over me. I expected the worst, but to my surprise, Sophia's eyes filled with tears. Not of sadness, but of joy. She reached out and took my hand, her touch sending a shiver down my spine. "I've been feeling the same way," she confessed, her voice soft but steady. "I've been so scared of ruining what we have and of how people might react. But I love you too, Emma." Her words filled me with a mix of relief and overwhelming happiness. We sat there, holding hands, both of us smiling through our tears. In that cozy cafe, surrounded by the warmth and familiarity of our favorite spot, we shared our first kiss. It was a moment of pure connection and happiness, marking the beginning of our romantic relationship. Our journey was far from easy. We faced societal judgments and prejudice. While Copenhagen was a relatively accepting city, there were still instances of discrimination and hostility. Some of our peers made hurtful comments, and there were moments when we felt the weight of societal expectations pressing down on us. However, we found solace in the acceptance of the local LGBT community, attending events and gatherings that made us feel embraced and understood. Family reactions were another hurdle. My family was immediately supportive. My parents especially were overjoyed and threw a small, intimate party to celebrate our love. They had always been open-minded and loving, and their acceptance meant the world to me. Sophia's family, on the other hand, was more reserved. Her mother was particularly concerned about societal judgment, and her father remained silent, needing time to process the news. Sophia's family, on the other hand, was more reserved. When she first came out to them and told them about our relationship, it was met with a mix of silence and concern. Her mother was particularly worried about societal judgment. She expressed fears about how the extended family and their small-town community would react. Her father remained silent, processing the news at his own pace. The first time I met Sophia's parents, I was incredibly nervous. Sophia had prepared me, explaining that they needed time to adjust. Her mother, Ingrid, greeted me politely but with noticeable hesitation. She was cordial but kept a certain distance. It was clear she was struggling with her own preconceptions and concerns about our relationship. Her father, Lars, was quiet, offering a firm handshake but saying very little. Over the following months we made several visits to her parents' home. Each time, I felt like we were slowly chipping away at a wall of discomfort and unfamiliarity. Ingrid would ask me questions about my family and my career plans. There were moments of awkward silence, but I tried to remain open and honest, hoping to show them how much I loved their daughter. The turning point came during one of these visits. We were having dinner, and the conversation turned to future plans. Sophia and I mentioned our hopes of getting married someday. Ingrid looked visibly uneasy, and Lars finally spoke up. He admitted that he had been struggling to understand and accept our relationship, not because he didn't want Sophia to be happy, but because it was so different from what he had envisioned for her. His honesty opened a door for genuine conversation. I shared with them how much Sophia meant to me and how committed I was to our future together. I expressed my respect for their family and my hope that they could come to accept and support us. It was a heartfelt and emotional discussion, and by the end of the evening, there was a noticeable shift in their attitude. They still had reservations, but they were beginning to see our relationship through a different lens. Ingrid started inviting me to more family gatherings, and her demeanor gradually softened. She began to ask more personal questions, showing genuine interest in my life and background. Lars, though still reserved, started to engage more during our visits. He shared stories from his own life, slowly building a connection with me. There were still moments of tension, especially when extended family members were involved. Some of Sophia's relatives were openly skeptical or disapproving, and it was clear that Ingrid and Lars were also navigating these external pressures. However, Sophia and I stood firm, supporting each other and maintaining open communication with her parents. Our involvement in the local LGBT community also played a role in bridging the gap. We invited Ingrid and Lars to attend a Pride event with us, hoping to show them the supportive and vibrant community we were part of. They agreed, albeit reluctantly. The event was an eye-opener for them. Seeing the love and acceptance among the attendees, and the positive atmosphere, seemed to have a profound impact on them. Ingrid later told us that the experience made her realize how much support we had and how important it was for us to be true to ourselves. She began to make an effort to understand our world better. We shared articles and books about LGBT issues with her, and she gradually became more educated and empathetic. Over time, their acceptance grew. Ingrid became more affectionate, treating me like part of the family. She would call me to check in and invite us over for dinner regularly. Lars remained quieter but showed his support in his own ways, helping us with practical matters, like fixing things in our apartment, and always being there when we needed advice. Living in Copenhagen, we also faced societal judgments from peers and strangers. There were occasional homophobic remarks and exclusion, but we stood strong together. These experiences, though painful, brought us closer. We learned to lean on each other for strength and support. We also became involved in activism, attending pride parades and advocating for LGBT rights. These activities empowered us and helped us build a network of supportive friends. 2 years into our relationship, we decided to move in together. It was an exciting step, filled with both joy and challenges. We found a small, cozy apartment that suited our needs. Decorating our new home was an adventure. My love for vintage decor clashed with Sophia's minimalist style, but we learned to compromise and create a space that reflected both our personalities. Living together brought us closer, but it also meant adjusting to each other's routines and habits. We had our share of small arguments over household responsibilities, but we always resolved them through open communication. When Sophia and I were together, every moment felt like an adventure. The excitement of discovering each other anew filled our days with joy. We were eager to make each moment special, and our early dating days were marked by romantic gestures that spoke volumes about our growing affection. Sophia had a knack for planning the perfect dates. One of our favorites was a picnic in a secluded spot she had found in one of Copenhagen's beautiful parks. She surprised me with a basket filled with my favorite foods: fresh bread, cheeses, fruit, and a bottle of wine. We spread a blanket under a large oak tree, its branches providing shade and a sense of intimacy. The air was filled with the scent of blooming flowers and the soft hum of nearby chatter. We spent hours talking, laughing, and simply enjoying each other's company. The simplicity of the picnic made it all the more special, a perfect reflection of our blossoming love. Late-night walks became another cherished routine. After a long day, we would meet up and stroll through the quiet streets of Copenhagen, the city lights casting a warm glow on our path. The world seemed to slow down during these walks, giving us the space to connect on a deeper level. We would often end up by the waterfront, watching the moonlight dance on the waves. Sophia would hold my hand, and we would talk about our dreams, our fears, and our hopes for the future. Those walks were a time for us to be completely open with each other, free from distractions. Sophia's surprise dates were always a delight. One evening, she took me to an outdoor movie screening. It was a classic romantic film, and she had prepared a cozy setup with blankets and pillows. We sat under the stars, the cool night air wrapping around us as we watched the movie. The magic of the film, combined with the enchantment of being with Sophia, made it an unforgettable experience. She had a way of turning ordinary moments into extraordinary memories. As our relationship deepened, so did our trust. We began sharing our deeper insecurities and personal challenges, finding solace and strength in each other's support. I confided in Sophia about my fears of not being good enough as a teacher, my worries about failing my students, and the pressure I felt to live up to my own expectations. Sophia listened with patience and understanding, offering words of encouragement that bolstered my confidence. One of the major challenges we faced early on in our relationship was Sophia's struggle with sexism and homophobia at her engineering firm. It was a difficult time for her, and seeing her in pain was heart-wrenching. Sophia had always been passionate about her work, but the toxic environment was taking a toll on her mental health and self-esteem. She would come home exhausted and demoralized, the weight of her experiences evident in her eyes. Sophia confided in me about the specific incidents that made her feel isolated and undervalued. She spoke about the offhand remarks, the condescending attitudes, and the blatant discrimination she faced. One particularly painful incident involved a project she had been leading. Despite her expertise and hard work, a male colleague was given credit for her achievements. The frustration and hurt she felt were palpable, and I was determined to help her navigate through it. Together, we devised a plan to address these challenges. I encouraged Sophia to document the instances of discrimination and to seek support from her company's HR department. We researched her rights and found resources that could help her build a strong case. It wasn't easy, but Sophia's resilience and determination shone through. She confronted her superiors and demanded the respect she deserved. Her courage was inspiring, and I stood by her every step of the way. Our relationship grew stronger as we faced this adversity together. Sophia's fight against sexism and homophobia became a shared battle, one that united us in a profound way. I made sure she knew she wasn't alone, that I was there to support her unconditionally. Whether it was listening to her vent after a particularly tough day or helping her prepare for meetings with HR, I did everything I could to be her rock. In the midst of these challenges, we found strength and solidarity in the LGBT community. We decided to attend a pride parade together, hoping to draw strength from the collective power of the community. The parade was a vibrant and joyous celebration of love and acceptance. The streets were filled with people of all ages, genders, and backgrounds, united by a common cause. The atmosphere was electric, and the sense of belonging was overwhelming. As we marched together, hand in hand, I felt a renewed sense of hope and determination. The parade was a powerful reminder that we were part of something larger than ourselves, a community that stood together in the face of adversity. Sophia and I cheered, danced, and celebrated our love openly, surrounded by people who understood our struggles and supported our journey. The Pride Parade strengthened our bond and gave us the courage to continue fighting for what was right. It reminded us that we were not alone, that we had allies and a supportive network behind us. The sense of solidarity and empowerment we felt that day carried over into our everyday lives, giving us the strength to face any challenge that came our way. Back in our everyday lives, we continued to support each other through the highs and lows. Sophia's determination and resilience paid off, and she began to see positive changes at work. Her superiors started to recognize her contributions, and she found allies among her colleagues who supported her fight for equality. It was a slow process, but the progress she made was a testament to her strength and perseverance. Our relationship flourished as we navigated these challenges together. The trust and support we built during this time laid a strong foundation for our future. We learned to communicate openly, to lean on each other during tough times, and to celebrate each other's successes. The weekend getaway that Sophia planned was a complete surprise. She had hinted for weeks about a special trip, building my anticipation and curiosity. On the Friday morning of our departure, she packed the car with supplies, and we set off on a drive away from the city's hustle and bustle. The urban landscape gradually gave way to rolling hills and serene countryside, and I felt a sense of peace wash over me as we left the familiar sights behind. After a few hours, we arrived at our destination, a secluded beach. The scene was breathtakingly beautiful, with golden sand stretching out to meet the gentle waves of the sea. It was a private spot, away from the usual tourist trails, offering a perfect escape from the world. Sophia had chosen a location that was not just picturesque but also incredibly peaceful, a place where we could truly relax and enjoy each other's company. We spent the first day exploring the coastline, collecting seashells and swimming in the clear, cool water. Sophia had packed a picnic basket filled with our favorite foods, fresh bread, cheeses, fruit, and a bottle of wine. We spread a blanket under a large oak tree near the beach, enjoying a leisurely meal while the sound of the waves provided a soothing soundtrack. The simplicity of the picnic made it all the more special, a perfect reflection of our relationship. That evening we sat by a campfire, roasting marshmallows and talking about everything and nothing. The stars above us were bright and numerous, and the moon cast a silver glow over the water. The ambiance was magical, and I felt incredibly lucky to be sharing this moment with Sophia. On the last night of our getaway, Sophia suggested we take a walk along the shore. The sun had set, and the sky was a deep indigo, dotted with countless stars. The moonlight reflected off the water, creating a shimmering pathway along the waves. We walked hand in hand, the cool sand beneath our feet, the gentle breeze carrying the scent of the ocean. Sophia led me to a spot where she had laid out a blanket and some pillows, creating a cozy setup for stargazing. We settled down, and she pointed out constellations, sharing stories and myths associated with them. I was entranced by the beauty of the night sky and the thoughtfulness of Sophia's planning. She had always known how to make me feel special and loved, and tonight was no exception. After a while, Sophia told me she had a small surprise for me. She handed me a seashell, its pearly surface glistening in the moonlight. I opened it, expecting to find a simple token or perhaps a note. Instead, nestled inside the shell was a delicate ring, its design intricate and elegant, perfectly capturing Sophia's taste and thoughtfulness. I looked up at Sophia, my heart pounding with surprise and emotion. She took my hands in hers, her eyes filled with love and sincerity. Her voice was steady despite the emotion evident in her eyes as she spoke. "Emma, you mean everything to me. I can't imagine my life without you. You've been my rock, my confidant, and my greatest love. Will you marry me?" Tears of joy streamed down my face as I realized the magnitude of the moment. I felt an overwhelming rush of happiness and love. The world seemed to fade away, leaving just the two of us in that perfect magical moment. I could see the depth of her feelings in her eyes, and I knew without a doubt that this was where I belonged. "Yes," I said, my voice trembling with emotion. "Yes, Sophia, I will marry you." The relief and joy on Sophia's face mirrored my own. We embraced, holding each other tightly, both of us overwhelmed by the intensity of our feelings. The love and connection we shared felt more profound than ever before. Our first kiss as an engaged couple was tender and filled with promise, sealing our commitment to each other. We spent the rest of the evening on the beach, talking about our future and dreaming of the life we would build together. The stars seemed to shine brighter that night, as if they were celebrating with us. Sophia had brought a small bottle of champagne, and we toasted to our future, clinking our glasses as we sat on the blanket, the sound of the waves providing a soothing background. The following morning, we watched the sunrise together, sitting wrapped in a blanket, our fingers intertwined. The sky gradually changed from dark blue to hues of pink and orange, signaling the start of a new day and a new chapter in our lives. We were filled with a sense of hope and excitement, knowing that we were stepping into the future together. As we packed up and prepared to leave the beach, I couldn't help but reflect on how far we had come. From our first meeting at a friend's party to this incredible moment of engagement, our journey has been filled with love, challenges, and growth. Sophia's proposal was the perfect culmination of our relationship, a testament to the deep bond we shared and the unbreakable commitment we had to each other. The drive back to Copenhagen was filled with laughter and joy. We talked about our engagement, the wedding we would plan, and the life we envisioned together. The excitement and anticipation of what lay ahead made the journey seem shorter, and before we knew it, we were back home, ready to share our news with friends and family. The engagement marked the beginning of an exciting and somewhat stressful period of wedding planning. Sophia and I were determined to create a day that truly reflected our love and values, blending traditional elements with modern inclusive touches. We quickly realized that planning a wedding was not just about choosing flowers and venues but also about navigating family dynamics and societal expectations. Sophia's family had come a long way since she first came out to them. Her parents, Ingrid and Lars, had grown to accept and support our relationship, but there were still moments of hesitation and uncertainty. They wanted to be involved in the wedding planning, and their support meant a lot to us. However, they sometimes struggled with the idea of a non-traditional wedding. On the other hand, my family was enthusiastic and eager to help from the start. My parents especially were thrilled about the wedding and offered their assistance in any way they could. My mother took on the role of chief planner, coordinating meetings and helping us make decisions. Her excitement was contagious, and her organizational skills were invaluable. Bringing both families together for planning sessions was an interesting experience. There were differences in opinions and expectations, but it was heartening to see everyone working towards a common goal. We had many discussions around the dining table, sipping coffee and brainstorming ideas. Ingrid and Lars slowly opened up, sharing their thoughts and suggestions. They wanted the wedding to be a beautiful and memorable day, and their input, though sometimes traditional, was rooted in a genuine desire to support us. One of the main challenges we faced was balancing traditional wedding customs with our desire for a modern, inclusive ceremony. We wanted our wedding to reflect who we were as individuals and as a couple, which meant incorporating elements that were meaningful to us while respecting the customs and traditions that our families held dear. We decided on a garden wedding, a perfect blend of natural beauty and elegance. The botanical garden we chose was stunning, with lush greenery and vibrant flowers providing a picturesque backdrop. However, planning an outdoor ceremony came with its own set of challenges, such as weather concerns and logistics. Traditional customs, such as walking down the aisle and the exchange of vows, were important to us, but we wanted to put our own twist on them. We decided to walk down the aisle together, symbolizing our partnership and equality. This decision was met with mixed reactions. While my family embraced the idea, Sophia's parents were initially unsure. They had envisioned a more traditional procession, but after some discussions, they came around and supported our choice. Writing our own vows was another way we personalized our ceremony. We spent many evenings crafting words that truly reflected our journey and our commitment to each other. It was a deeply emotional process, filled with tears and laughter, as we revisited memories and expressed our hopes for the future. Sharing these intimate promises in front of our loved ones was incredibly important to us. Navigating the guest list was another challenge. We wanted to invite those who had supported us throughout our relationship, but we also had to consider family expectations. Sophia's extended family included some conservative members who had been less than supportive. Deciding whether to invite them was difficult, but ultimately, we chose to surround ourselves with people who genuinely cared for and supported us. Throughout the planning process, we were overwhelmed by the support and love from our friends and family. Our close friends rallied around us, offering their time and talents to make our wedding special. A friend who was a graphic designer created beautiful invitations and programs, incorporating a subtle rainbow motif that celebrated our pride and love. Another friend, a talented musician, offered to perform at the ceremony, adding a personal touch to our special day. Our families, despite their initial reservations, came together in ways we hadn't expected. My mother and Ingrid formed an unlikely bond over wedding preparations, spending hours discussing flower arrangements and decorations. Lars, who had been more reserved, took on the task of handling logistics, ensuring everything ran smoothly. As the wedding day approached, the sense of unity and support grew stronger. Our friends organized a pre-wedding celebration, a mix of traditional and modern elements, that brought everyone together in a joyous and relaxed atmosphere. It was a beautiful reminder of the love and community that surrounded us. The day of the wedding dawned clear and bright, with a gentle breeze rustling the leaves in the botanical garden. Sophia and I woke up feeling a mix of excitement and nervousness. We had planned and prepared for this day for months, and now it was finally here. The garden was transformed into a magical setting, with flowers and decorations that reflected our personalities and love. The ceremony took place in a secluded part of the garden, under a large oak tree. White chairs were arranged in rows, adorned with delicate floral arrangements. A beautiful arch made of intertwined branches and flowers stood at the front, framing the spot where we would exchange our vows. We decided to walk down the aisle together, hand in hand. As we made our way through the garden path, the string quartet played our favorite song, creating an enchanting atmosphere. The sight of our friends and family, smiling and teary-eyed, filled us with a deep sense of love and gratitude. Our officiant, a close friend who had been with us from the beginning, welcomed everyone and spoke about the journey that had brought us to this moment. She highlighted the importance of love, commitment, and the courage it took to be true to ourselves. Her words were heartfelt and touching, setting the perfect tone for the ceremony. When it was time for our vows, Sophia and I faced each other, our hands clasped tightly. We took turns reading the promises we had written, our voices trembling with emotion. Sophia spoke about the strength and resilience she saw in me, the joy I brought into her life, and her commitment to stand by my side through everything. I shared my gratitude for her unwavering support, her kindness, and the deep connection we shared. As we spoke, there wasn't a dry eye among our guests. The emotional weight of our promises, coupled with the beauty of the setting, made the moment incredibly powerful. One of the highlights of the ceremony was a surprise musical performance by a friend who had known us since college. She sang a song that held special meaning for us, her voice carrying through the garden and adding a magical touch to the proceedings. It was a moment of pure beauty, and the love and effort she put into her performance touched our hearts deeply. Following the ceremony, we moved to a tented area for the reception. The tent was decorated with fairy lights and colorful flowers, creating a warm and inviting atmosphere. Each table had a small booklet that shared our love story, from our first meeting to the proposal, allowing guests to reminisce and celebrate our journey with us. The meal was a blend of our favorite foods, with a focus on local and sustainable ingredients. We wanted the reception to feel like a big, joyous family dinner, and the warm communal atmosphere made everyone feel included and cherished. As a special touch, we included a dessert bar featuring treats from both our cultures, a sweet nod to our backgrounds. The speeches were another memorable part of the reception. Our friends and family shared stories and well wishes, their words filled with humor and love. A close friend, who had been there since the beginning of our relationship, gave a particularly moving speech that had everyone laughing and crying in equal measure. Their words were a beautiful reminder of the journey we had taken and the support we had along the way. Dancing under the stars was a magical experience. We had hired a DJ who played a mix of our favorite songs, and the dance floor was never empty. We shared our first dance as a married couple to a song that held special meaning for us, and as we moved together, it felt like the world melted away, leaving just the two of us in that perfect moment. One of the most profound aspects of our wedding was the act of publicly declaring our love despite societal prejudices. There were moments of fear and uncertainty leading up to the wedding, worries about how some guests might react or whether we would face judgment. But standing there, surrounded by the people who mattered most, those fears faded away. The overwhelming support and love from our friends and family reaffirmed our belief in the power of love and community. Our wedding wasn't just a celebration of our relationship, it was a testament to the progress we had made and the acceptance we had found. It was a beautiful and empowering experience, one that reminded us of the importance of being true to ourselves and standing up for what we believed in. As the evening came to a close, we took a moment to step away from the festivities and reflect on the day. We stood together, looking out at the twinkling lights and the joyful faces of our guests. It had been a day filled with love, laughter, and memorable moments, a perfect start to the rest of our lives together. Our wedding was everything we had hoped for and more. It was a day filled with love, support, and joy, a celebration not just of our relationship but of the community and the journey that had brought us together. As we looked around at our friends and family, dancing and laughing under the twinkling lights, we felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude and happiness. It was the perfect start to the rest of our lives together. After the excitement and whirlwind of our wedding, Sophia and I settled into our life as a married couple. The transition from engaged to married life was a beautiful journey of establishing new routines and planning for our future together. Each day brought a new sense of comfort and familiarity, deepening our bond and strengthening our commitment. One of the first things we did was to create a space that truly felt like home. We had been living together for a few years, but now, as a married couple, there was a renewed sense of purpose in making our apartment a reflection of us. We spent weekends rearranging furniture, adding personal touches, and filling our home with items that brought us joy. Sophia's minimalist style and my love for vintage decor blended seamlessly, creating a cozy and inviting space that we both loved. Establishing routines was a natural next step. We both had busy schedules, but we made it a priority to carve out time for each other. Mornings became our sacred time, a peaceful start to the day before the rush of work. We would sit together over breakfast, sipping coffee and discussing our plans for the day. These quiet moments of connection set a positive tone and made the hectic days more manageable. Evenings were dedicated to unwinding and reconnecting. Sophia often came home tired from her demanding job in engineering, and I would try to make her transition home as relaxing as possible. We developed a routine of cooking dinner together, experimenting with new recipes and enjoying the simple pleasure of a home-cooked meal. Cooking became a shared activity that allowed us to bond and de-stress. We would chat about our day, sharing both the highlights and the challenges. Weekends were our time to explore and have fun. We loved discovering new parts of Copenhagen, visiting museums, parks, and cafes. We also made it a point to continue with our late-night walks, a tradition that had started early in our relationship. These walks were a way for us to stay connected, to talk about our dreams and plans, and to simply enjoy each other's company. As we settled into our married life, our careers also began to flourish. Sophia's dedication and hard work at her engineering firm did not go unnoticed. Despite the challenges she faced early on, she persevered and made significant strides in her field. Her resilience and expertise earned her the respect of her colleagues and superiors. One of the most significant milestones was when Sophia was promoted to a senior engineering position. The promotion was a recognition of her technical skills, leadership abilities, and the innovative projects she had spearheaded. It was a well-deserved achievement, and I was incredibly proud of her. The promotion also brought new responsibilities and challenges, but Sophia faced them with her characteristic determination and grace. With her new role, Sophia's work schedule became even more demanding. There were late nights and occasional weekends at the office, but we made it work. We communicated openly about our needs and supported each other through the busy times. Sophia's promotion also meant a better financial situation for us, allowing us to save more for our future goals. Meanwhile, my career as a primary school teacher was also reaching new heights. I had always been passionate about teaching, and my dedication to my students was unwavering. The recognition came when I was awarded Teacher of the Year at my school. It was an honor that filled me with immense pride and gratitude. The award was a testament to my hard work and the positive impact I had on my students. It was a reminder of why I loved teaching and the difference I could make in young lives. The award also brought new opportunities, including an invitation to speak at educational conferences and the chance to mentor new teachers. Balancing our successful careers with our personal life required effort and commitment. We made it a priority to celebrate each other's achievements and to support one another during challenging times. When Sophia had a big presentation or a critical project deadline, I would make sure to be extra supportive, taking on more household responsibilities and providing emotional encouragement. Similarly, when I was preparing for a conference or dealing with a particularly tough school day, Sophia was there to lift my spirits and offer her unwavering support. With our careers on solid ground, we began to think more seriously about our future. We had always talked about the possibility of starting a family, and now that we were married and more established, those conversations became more concrete. We explored different options, including adoption and surrogacy, and had many heartfelt discussions about what would be best for us. We also set financial goals, creating a plan to save for a house. While we loved our apartment, we dreamed of having a home with more space and a garden where we could enjoy outdoor activities. We started a savings fund and carefully managed our finances to make this dream a reality. Travel was another shared passion, and we made a list of places we wanted to visit together. From exploring the historic cities of Europe to relaxing on tropical beaches, our travel plans were a way to create lasting memories and experience new adventures. We scheduled annual vacations, making sure to take time off from our busy schedules to recharge and reconnect. Our involvement in the LGBT community also remained an important part of our lives. We continued to participate in Pride events, advocate for LGBT rights, and support local organizations. Our commitment to the community was a source of strength and pride, and we were determined to give back and make a positive impact. Of course, life wasn't without its challenges. There were moments of stress and tension, times when the demands of work and personal life felt overwhelming. We faced misunderstandings and disagreements, but our strong foundation of communication and trust helped us navigate these rough patches. One particular challenge was managing the expectations of our extended families. While our parents were supportive, there were still moments of tension, especially during holidays and family gatherings. Balancing time between both families and managing differing opinions required patience and understanding. We made it a point to communicate openly with our families, setting boundaries when necessary and ensuring that our relationship remained a priority. Another challenge was dealing with societal prejudices. Despite the progress that had been made, there were still instances of discrimination and bias. Whether it was insensitive comments or more overt acts of homophobia, these experiences were painful. However, we faced them together, finding strength in each other and in our community. Through it all, our love and commitment to each other only grew stronger. We learned to navigate life's ups and downs as a team, supporting each other and celebrating our successes together. Our shared experiences, both good and challenging, deepened our connection and reinforced the foundation of our relationship. One of the most profound lessons we learned was the importance of making time for each other. Despite our busy schedules, we prioritize our relationship, making sure to have regular date nights and moments of connection. Whether it was a weekend getaway, a simple dinner at home, or a spontaneous adventure, these moments were essential in keeping our relationship strong and vibrant. We also continued to nurture our individual passions and interests. Sophia pursued further studies in sustainable engineering, attending workshops and conferences to stay at the forefront of her field. I took on new projects at school, developing innovative teaching methods and collaborating with colleagues to enhance the educational experience for our students. Our journey as a married couple was filled with love, growth, and endless possibilities. We faced challenges with resilience and embraced opportunities with enthusiasm. The routines we established, the milestones we achieved, and the dreams we pursued were all part of the beautiful tapestry of our life together. After a few years of settling into married life, Sophia and I began to seriously discuss the idea of starting a family. It was a topic we had touched upon many times before, but now it felt like the right time to delve deeper. We spent countless nights lying in bed, imagining our home filled with the laughter and chaos of children. The idea of becoming parents excited and terrified us in equal measure. Our conversations were filled with dreams and hopes. We talked about the kind of parents we wanted to be, the values we hoped to instill in our children, and the adventures we would have as a family. Sophia imagined teaching our children about science and engineering, fostering their curiosity and creativity. I envisioned reading bedtime stories and planning educational outings, nurturing their love for learning. As we delved deeper into our discussions, we realized that there were many practical considerations to address. We needed to explore the various options available to us as a same-sex couple. Adoption, surrogacy, and IVF were all possibilities, each with its own set of challenges and rewards. We began our research by attending seminars and informational sessions. There were numerous organizations and support groups dedicated to helping LGBT couples navigate the process of starting a family. We met with doctors, legal experts, and other couples who had gone through similar journeys. These meetings were incredibly informative and provided us with a wealth of knowledge and resources. Adoption was one of the first options we considered. We attended several adoption seminars and met with agencies that specialized in placing children with same-sex couples. The idea of providing a loving home for a child in need was deeply appealing to both of us. However, the process was long and complex, involving extensive paperwork, background checks, and a waiting period that could stretch for years. We also learned that there were legal hurdles to navigate, especially when adopting internationally. Surrogacy was another option we explored. We met with several surrogacy agencies and spoke with surrogates who had helped other couples fulfill their dreams of parenthood. The idea of having a biological connection to our child was important to us, and surrogacy seemed like a viable path. However, it was also an expensive and emotionally taxing process. We would need to find a surrogate who was a good match, navigate the legal aspects, and be prepared for the financial investment. IVF was another option on the table, and we attended several consultations with fertility specialists. The medical professionals explained the process in detail, including the use of donor sperm. The idea of IVF intrigued us, but it also brought up a host of emotions and concerns. As we delved deeper into the IVF discussions, I began to notice a growing discomfort in Sophia. At first, she didn't say much, but I could sense her unease. During one of our consultations, she finally voiced her concerns. Sophia expressed discomfort with the idea of using donor sperm, saying she didn't want a man's cum in me. Her words took me by surprise, and I almost laughed at the absurdity of it, but I quickly realized she was serious. I tried to understand her perspective, but I felt hurt and confused. To me, IVF seemed like a simple and logical solution to our desire to have a child. The science was clear, the success rates were promising, and many same-sex couples had successfully used IVF to start their families. I couldn't comprehend why Sophia was so opposed to it, especially since we both understood the medical aspects very well. I would lie awake at night, replaying our conversations in my mind, trying to piece together why she felt this way. I felt a growing sense of frustration and helplessness. It seemed like every time we made progress, we were met with another roadblock. I wanted to support Sophia, but I also felt that she was being unreasonable and overly cautious about something that should be straightforward. Our arguments often ended in frustration and tears. The same points would be raised again and again, with neither of us feeling heard or understood. I would try to present the logical aspects, the statistics, the safety, and the success stories of other couples. Sophia, however, would respond with her emotional and psychological concerns. Sophia tried to explain that it wasn't just about the physical aspect of IVF. She spoke about her deeper feelings of discomfort and unease. She worried about the implications of using donor sperm and the potential emotional impact on our family. She was concerned about how the child might feel about their origins and the possible identity issues they might face. I struggled to understand these concerns. To me, it felt like Sophia was overcomplicating something that should be straightforward. I would counter her arguments with practical solutions, suggesting we could be open and honest with our child about their conception, provide them with all the love and support they needed, and ensure they felt secure in their identity. The emotional toll of these discussions was significant. I felt like we were on a constant roller coaster, with moments of hope quickly followed by despair. There were times when I felt like giving up, wondering if we would ever find a resolution that worked for both of us. I questioned whether we were ready for the challenges of parenthood if we couldn't even agree on the first step. I also felt a deep sense of isolation. It seemed like no one else could fully understand the complexity of our situation. Friends and family offered support, but their well-meaning advice often missed the mark. They didn't grasp the intricacies of our emotional and psychological struggles, and their suggestions sometimes felt dismissive of Sophia's concerns. During one particularly intense argument, Sophia broke down and shared more about her fears. She felt like the process of IVF was invasive and that it imposed traditional gender roles on our relationship. She had spent her entire career fighting against sexism and homophobia, and the idea of using donor sperm felt like another way in which societal norms were being imposed on us. She worried about the dynamics it would create within our family and how it might affect our child's sense of identity. Our arguments often ended in frustration and tears. Sophia tried to explain that it wasn't just about the physical aspect of IVF, but also about her deeper feelings of discomfort and unease. She worried about the implications of using donor sperm and the potential emotional impact on our family. I struggled to understand these concerns, feeling like she was overcomplicating something that should be straightforward. The tension began to take a toll on our relationship. We had always been able to communicate openly and support each other through challenges, but this issue seemed to create a rift between us. I felt like Sophia was being irrational and stubborn, while she felt like I wasn't respecting her feelings and concerns. Desperate to find a resolution, we decided to seek counseling. We found a therapist who specialized in working with LGBT couples and booked our first session. The counseling sessions provided a safe space for us to express our thoughts and emotions without judgment. Our therapist helped us unpack the layers of our conflict, exploring the deeper fears and insecurities that were driving our reactions. Through counseling, I began to understand that Sophia's discomfort with IVF wasn't just about the physical process. It was rooted in her feelings about traditional gender roles and societal expectations. She had spent her entire career fighting against sexism and homophobia, and the idea of using donor sperm felt like another way in which societal norms were being imposed on us. She worried about the implications for our family dynamics and the potential for judgment from others. Understanding Sophia's perspective helped me to see the issue in a new light. I realized that her concerns were valid and that we needed to find a solution that respected both of our feelings. We continued to attend counseling sessions, working through our emotions and finding ways to support each other. One breakthrough moment came when Sophia admitted that she felt pressured to conform to traditional notions of family and parenthood. She felt like she was being forced into a role that didn't align with her identity and values. Hearing this helped me to empathize with her struggle and to see that her opposition to IVF was about more than just the physical process. Hearing this, I began to see the issue in a new light. Sophia's discomfort wasn't just about the medical procedure, it was about the deeper implications and her struggle against societal expectations. She felt pressured to conform to traditional notions of family and parenthood, and that pressure was causing her significant distress. Realizing the depth of Sophia's feelings, I suggested we seek counseling. We found a therapist who specialized in working with LGBT couples and began attending sessions. The counseling sessions provided a safe space for us to express our thoughts and emotions without judgment. Our therapist helped us unpack the layers of our conflict, exploring the deeper fears and insecurities that were driving our reactions. Through counseling, I began to understand that Sophia's discomfort with IVF was not something to be dismissed. It was a legitimate concern rooted in her experiences and values. The process of working through our conflict in therapy was enlightening and healing. We learned to communicate more openly and to respect each other's feelings. After many months of discussions, counseling sessions, and emotional highs and lows, we finally found a path that felt right for both of us. We decided to pursue surrogacy using both of our eggs and a known sperm donor. This approach allowed us to have a biological connection to our child while respecting Sophia's discomfort with traditional IVF. The decision brought a sense of relief and renewed hope. We felt that we had found a solution that honored our individual needs and our shared vision for our family. We began the process by reaching out to a close friend who had previously expressed a willingness to be a sperm donor. His name was Mark, a longtime friend from our university days. Mark had always been supportive of our relationship and understood the unique challenges we faced. We invited him over for dinner, intending to discuss our hopes and concerns openly. The dinner was filled with nervous anticipation. As we settled into the cozy ambiance of our living room, we explained our decision to pursue surrogacy and why we felt Mark would be the ideal donor. We emphasized that his role would be more than just a donor. He would be part of our extended family, playing a significant role in our child's life. We discussed our hopes for the future and the kind of relationship we envisioned him having with our child. Mark listened intently, nodding thoughtfully as we spoke. He then shared his thoughts, expressing his admiration for our courage and commitment. He agreed to help us in our journey to parenthood, stating that he felt honored to be part of something so meaningful. His support and understanding were incredibly reassuring, and it felt like a significant step forward in our journey. With Mark on board, our next step was to find a surrogate. We worked with a surrogacy agency that specialized in matching couples with surrogates who shared their values and vision. The agency was known for its rigorous selection process, ensuring that surrogates were well-informed, healthy, and genuinely committed to helping couples achieve their dreams of parenthood. Our case manager, Sarah, guided us through the process. She provided profiles of potential surrogates, each with detailed information about their backgrounds, motivations, and health. We spent countless hours reviewing these profiles, hoping to find someone who resonated with us. After several interviews, we found a wonderful surrogate named Laura. Meeting Laura for the first time was a heartwarming experience. She had a warm smile and an easygoing demeanor that immediately put us at ease. Laura shared her reasons for becoming a surrogate, explaining that she wanted to help couples like us, because she believed in the importance of family and wanted to give the gift of parenthood to those who couldn't achieve it on their own. We felt an instant connection with Laura. She was kind, empathetic, and genuinely excited to help us bring our child into the world. We spent several meetings discussing our expectations, hopes, and concerns. Laura's openness and sincerity reassured us that she was the right person to join us on this journey. The legal and medical aspects of surrogacy were complex, but we navigated them with the support of our agency and legal advisors. The first step was to create a detailed surrogacy agreement that outlined everyone's rights and responsibilities. This agreement was crucial to ensure that all parties were protected and that there was a clear understanding of the process. Our legal advisor, Emily, was experienced in surrogacy law and guided us through the intricacies of the agreement. We discussed every aspect in detail, from medical procedures to financial arrangements, to the involvement of the surrogate in our child's life. The goal was to create a comprehensive document that addressed all potential scenarios and ensured that everyone felt secure and respected. However, our sense of anticipation and joy was abruptly disrupted by our parents' reactions when we shared our plans with them. We had expected some questions and perhaps a bit of discomfort given their traditional views, but nothing could have prepared us for the intensity of their opposition. The first confrontation came during a dinner at my parents' house. We had planned a special evening to share our news, hoping that the joyful atmosphere would help them embrace our decision. As we sat around the dinner table, Sophia and I carefully explained our journey so far, the consultations, the legal preparations, and our connection with Laura. My parents listened quietly at first, their expressions growing more strained as we spoke. My father was the first to break the silence. "I don't understand why you can't just do it the natural way," he said, his voice laced with confusion and disappointment. "One of you should be carrying the child. It seems so impersonal, having someone else do it." His words stung. I had anticipated some resistance, but his outright rejection felt like a blow. I tried to explain our reasoning again, emphasizing Sophia's discomfort with IVF and our desire to find a solution that felt right for both of us. But my father was unmoved. My mother, who had been silent until then, chimed in. "We thought we'd see you with a baby bump, Emma. We thought it would be a part of you. Surrogacy feels so detached, so clinical." A similar confrontation occurred when we spoke to Sophia's parents via a video call. We had hoped that explaining everything in detail would help them understand, but Ingrid's voice trembled with emotion as she expressed her disapproval. "This isn't how we imagined becoming grandparents. We thought one of you would carry the baby. It feels so detached, having a surrogate." Lars, usually more reserved, was visibly upset. "Why go through all this when you can just carry the child yourselves? It doesn't make sense to us." The discussions quickly escalated into heated arguments. Both sets of parents were adamant that surrogacy was not the right choice for us. They brought up concerns about the emotional bond between us and our future child, societal perceptions, and their own expectations of what family should look like. They couldn't understand why we would choose a path that seemed so unconventional and complicated to them. Our parents' arguments were emotionally charged and often harsh. They accused us of taking the easy way out, of not considering the emotional implications for the child, and of disregarding their feelings and expectations. It was heartbreaking to hear such accusations from people we loved and respected. Sophia tried to explain our reasons and the emotional journey that had led us to choose surrogacy. She spoke about her discomfort with IVF and how surrogacy felt like the best solution for us. But our parents were unmoved. They viewed our decision as an abandonment of traditional family values. The arguments became more intense, with accusations and harsh words flying back and forth. I felt caught in the middle, trying to mediate between Sophia and our parents, but it was clear that we were facing a deep and painful divide. The hurt and frustration on both sides were evident, and it felt like we were stuck in an impasse. The emotional toll of these conflicts was significant. Sophia and I found ourselves questioning our decision and feeling torn between our own desires and our parents' expectations. The stress and strain of these confrontations affected our daily lives, leading to sleepless nights and tense conversations. I felt a profound sense of betrayal and disappointment. I had always imagined that our parents would support us unconditionally, but their harsh words and rigid stances made me question everything. I struggled with feelings of guilt and anger, torn between wanting to make them happy and staying true to what felt right for us. Sophia, who had already battled significant emotional turmoil over IVF, was deeply hurt by the lack of support from our families. She felt misunderstood and isolated, her fears and concerns dismissed as irrational. The pressure from our parents to conform to traditional notions of family and pregnancy only added to her distress. After the intense argument at home, Sophia and I decided to temporarily stop our surrogacy plans. The conflicts with our parents and the emotional strain it placed on us were too overwhelming to continue without a pause. The decision to take a break felt like a relief but also left a void. Our dreams of starting a family were put on hold, and the uncertainty weighed heavily on us. We tried to focus on our work to distract ourselves from the emotional turmoil. Sophia threw herself into her projects at the engineering firm, taking on more responsibilities and working late into the evenings. Her promotion had brought new challenges, and she channeled her energy into excelling in her role. I immersed myself in my teaching career, preparing lessons, and spending extra time with my students. While work provided a temporary escape, the unresolved issue of starting a family lingered in the background. The conflict over starting a family became an increasingly pressing issue between Sophia and me. Despite all our love and the depth of our relationship, this one topic seemed insurmountable. I had tried to bring it up multiple times, hoping for a breakthrough, but every discussion ended the same way. Sophia repeated her discomfort with IVF and the idea of using donor sperm, but her explanations never seemed to go beyond that. It felt so irrational to me. I was trying to be understanding and patient, but I was reaching my limit. Sophia's stance felt like a barrier I couldn't penetrate. She would say she didn't want a man's cum in me, and that would be the end of it. I tried to delve deeper, to understand her underlying fears and concerns, but she would shut down or deflect. It was incredibly frustrating. I couldn't understand why she was being so resistant to something that seemed like a logical and effective solution to our desire for a family. What made it even more confusing was how loving and kind Sophia was in every other aspect of our life. She was attentive, affectionate, and went out of her way to make me happy. She cooked my favorite meals, planned surprise dates, and was there for me emotionally in every way. It was like she was compensating for the tension around our family planning discussions by being extra attentive in other areas. This only added to my confusion and frustration. I felt like I was living in two parallel worlds. One where our relationship was perfect, and another where we were stuck in an endless loop of disagreement and misunderstanding. I tried to bring up the topic gently, avoiding pushing too hard to not come off as annoying or demanding. I would mention it casually during our evening walks or while we were cuddling on the couch. But each time, Sophia's response was the same. She would reiterate her discomfort, and the conversation would stall. I began to feel like I was hitting a brick wall. It wasn't that Sophia was refusing to talk about it. She would engage in the conversation, but it always ended at the same point. I asked her if she didn't want children right now, suggesting that maybe we were rushing the process. I wanted to reassure her that we didn't have to make any decisions immediately, and that we could take our time. But Sophia insisted that she did want children. Her words and her actions were at odds, and I couldn't reconcile the two. The emotional toll of this unresolved conflict was heavy. I loved Sophia deeply and wanted to understand her, but I felt shut out. I was in a state of constant confusion and frustration. Every time I tried to make sense of her feelings, I ended up more baffled. It was as if she was keeping a part of herself locked away, and no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't reach it. Sophia's kindness and affection made it even harder. She was doing everything she could to show her love for me, but it felt like a distraction from the real issue. I appreciated her efforts, but it didn't solve the problem. Instead, it made me feel guilty for pushing her on the subject of children. I wondered if I was being unreasonable or if I was missing something important. I found myself questioning everything. Did Sophia really want children, or was she just saying that to avoid disappointing me? Was there something deeper that she wasn't sharing? I knew her so well, yet in this one crucial aspect, I felt like I didn't know her at all. It was a painful realization. The persistent disagreement with Sophia and my own feelings of inadequacy led to a period of intense self-doubt and reflection. I spent countless hours thinking about our situation, trying to understand Sophia's perspective while grappling with my own emotions. I questioned whether I was being unreasonable or if there was something more I could do to bridge the gap between us. Sharing my feelings with others was a challenge. I wanted to talk to my friends and family about the conflict, but I was afraid of offending anyone or making the situation worse. I felt trapped between my desire to resolve the issue and my fear of causing more pain. The weight of the unresolved conflict was a constant burden, and I often found myself lying awake at night, consumed by worry and uncertainty. Work became my refuge during this difficult time. I threw myself into my teaching career with renewed vigor, finding solace in the familiar routines and the joy of working with my students. I volunteered for extra projects, attended professional development workshops, and even started a new after-school program focused on creative writing. The satisfaction of making a difference in my students' lives provided a temporary reprieve from my personal struggles. Sophia also found solace in her work. Her engineering projects were demanding and required her full attention, which helped her cope with the emotional strain at home. She achieved several milestones in her career, earning accolades and recognition from her peers and superiors. While her professional success was gratifying, it also highlighted the growing distance between us as we each dealt with our personal pain in different ways. Despite my best efforts to cope and find a resolution, the conflict between Sophia and me remained unresolved. The surrogacy plans that had once filled us with hope and excitement now seemed like a distant dream. Our relationship, once so strong and resilient, was strained to its breaking point. Sophia's persistence in maintaining her opinion on IVF was both admirable and frustrating. I admired her for standing by her beliefs and values, but I also felt deeply hurt that she couldn't compromise. My feelings of helplessness and inadequacy grew stronger, and I began to question whether our relationship could survive this level of conflict. As I continued to grapple with these emotions, I realized that part of my struggle was rooted in my own expectations and desires. I had always envisioned a future where we could have a child and create a loving family together. The reality of our situation, with all its complexities and challenges, was far from that ideal. Sitting at my desk late at night, the room illuminated only by the soft glow of my desk lamp, my thoughts are as dim and uncertain as our future seems to be. My mind is a whirlpool of questions, swirling endlessly without finding any solid answers. How did we get to this point? When did our mutual dreams start to feel like battlegrounds? The issue of having a child, once a shared dream filled with hope and excitement, has become a source of division and discord. It feels like we're both holding pieces of a puzzle that no longer fit together. I love Sophia deeply, more than I ever thought possible. Our relationship has always been built on a foundation of mutual respect, understanding, and unwavering support. Yet now, I find myself questioning everything. I wonder how I should navigate this delicate issue of starting a family without disappointing my parents, who have their own expectations and dreams for us, and without further fraying the bond between Sophia and me. I find myself trapped in a cycle of guilt and frustration. I feel guilty for wanting something that causes Sophia so much pain, and frustrated that we can't find a way to move forward together. My parents' expectations add another layer of complexity to the situation. They have their own dreams for us, dreams that include a grandchild. I don't want to disappoint them, but I also don't want to force Sophia into a situation that makes her uncomfortable. The house is silent, save for the occasional creak of the floorboards. Sophia is asleep in the next room, and I envy her ability to find some semblance of peace, even if only in sleep. I wish I could quiet my mind long enough to find some clarity, to see a way through this darkness. I love Sophia more than words can express. She is my partner, my confidant, my best friend. I want to build a future with her. A future that includes the laughter and chaos of children. But I also want her to feel safe and respected. To know that her feelings and fears are valid. As I sit there, the quiet of the night pressing in around me, I wonder how we can mend this rift. How can we find a solution that honors both of our needs and desires? Sophia and Emma's story is a deeply moving and multifaceted narrative that offers valuable lessons on relationships, love, and the challenges of starting a family. Their journey underscores the importance of understanding, empathy, and communication in overcoming personal and societal obstacles. Here are some profound lessons drawn from their experiences. One of the central lessons from Sophia and Emma's journey is the power of empathy and understanding in relationships. Initially, Emma struggled to comprehend Sophia's discomfort with IVF. To her, the procedure seemed like a logical solution to their desire for a child. However, Sophia's feelings were deeply rooted in emotional and psychological concerns, including societal expectations and traditional gender roles. Emma's journey to understanding Sophia's perspective underscores the necessity of approaching conflicts in relationships with empathy. Effective communication isn't just about talking, it's about listening deeply and validating each other's feelings. By seeking to understand Sophia's deeper fears and insecurities, Emma learned to appreciate her partner's perspective, which was crucial in finding a path forward. This lesson teaches us that empathy is a critical component of any relationship. Taking the time to truly understand a partner's feelings and concerns can help bridge gaps and resolve conflicts that may seem insurmountable. It's not enough to merely acknowledge a partner's discomfort. One must delve deeper to understand the root causes and address them compassionately. Another significant lesson from their story is the challenge of balancing family expectations with personal values and desires. Both Sophia and Emma faced considerable pressure from their parents, who had traditional views on family and parenthood. Their parents' resistance to surrogacy and insistence that one of them become pregnant highlighted the generational and cultural differences that often complicate family dynamics. This aspect of their story highlights the importance of finding a balance between respecting family opinions and staying true to one's values and needs. While family support and approval are important, personal decisions, especially those as significant as starting a family, must align with what feels right for the couple involved. Sophia and Emma's experience underscores the importance of open dialogue and finding common ground. It shows that while it's essential to consider family expectations, ultimately, the decisions about starting a family must reflect the couple's shared vision and values. This lesson is particularly relevant for anyone navigating similar pressures from family or society. Respecting individual perspectives within a relationship is another crucial lesson from their story. Sophia's discomfort with IVF was not something Emma could initially understand, but it was a deeply personal issue for Sophia. The journey to finding a solution that worked for both of them required Emma to respect Sophia's feelings, even when they didn't align with her own perspective. For my birthday, my friend's boyfriend gave me a family heirloom that he had stolen, and now, everything is in chaos. It was a crisp autumn evening when I gathered with my closest friends to celebrate my 26th birthday. We had chosen our usual spot, a cozy little bistro tucked away in a quiet corner of the city, known for its warm ambiance and delicious comfort food. The place was perfect for our small group, providing an intimate setting where we could laugh, share stories, and enjoy each other's company without the hustle and bustle of larger venues. The bistro was softly lit, with fairy lights strung across the ceiling and candles flickering on each table, casting a warm golden glow. The aroma of freshly baked bread and simmering stew filled the air, mingling with the sound of soft jazz playing in the background. It was the kind of place where time seemed to slow down, allowing us to savor every moment of the evening. My friends and I had known each other for years, having met during various stages of our lives. Some from university, others through mutual acquaintances. We had formed a tight-knit group, supporting each other through thick and thin. There was an unspoken understanding among us, a mutual respect and affection that made our gathering special. We had developed a tradition when it came to birthday celebrations. Our gifts were always thoughtful but modest, reflecting our shared understanding of each other's financial situations. Most of us were young professionals or grad students, juggling careers, studies, and sometimes both. The gifts we exchanged were typically in the €10–40 range, a book, a voucher for theater tickets, or perhaps a nice bottle of wine. It was never about the monetary value but the sentiment behind the gesture. As I looked around the table, I couldn't help but feel grateful for the friends who had become my second family. There was Emma, my best friend since university. At 26, she was a vivacious and spirited individual, always the life of the party. With her curly blonde hair and infectious laugh, Emma had a knack for making everyone around her feel at ease. She worked as a graphic designer, her creativity evident in everything she did. Emma had a kind heart and a fierce loyalty to those she cared about, making her the glue that held our group together. Next to her sat Jason, 27, a software engineer with a quiet demeanor but a sharp wit. Jason was the problem solver of the group, always ready with a solution or a piece of advice. His dark hair and glasses gave him an intellectual appearance, which matched his personality perfectly. Despite his reserved nature, Jason had a dry sense of humor that never failed to catch us off guard, resulting in fits of laughter at the most unexpected moments. Then there was Sarah, 26, a fellow grad student who shared my love for literature and history. Sarah was thoughtful and introspective, with an uncanny ability to read people and situations. Her auburn hair and green eyes gave her an ethereal quality, and she often seemed lost in her own world of books and ideas. Despite this, Sarah was incredibly empathetic, always ready to lend an ear or offer a comforting word. And finally, there was Alex, my good friend who had brought along her boyfriend, Mark, for the first time. Alex, also 26, was a social worker with a passion for helping others. She had a bubbly personality and an infectious energy that brightened any room she entered. Her long brown hair and warm smile were as welcoming as her nature. Alex had been dating Mark for about a year, and while we hadn't spent much time with him yet, she often spoke highly of him. Mark, 28, was an enigma to most of us. He was a freelance photographer, often struggling to find steady work, which led to some financial instability. With his rugged good looks, dark hair, and piercing blue eyes, Mark had an air of mystery about him. He was charming and personable, but there was an underlying restlessness in his demeanor, as if he were constantly searching for something just out of reach. As the evening progressed, we enjoyed a delicious meal, accompanied by laughter and heartfelt conversations. The table was soon filled with small, neatly wrapped gifts, each one a testament to our shared understanding of each other's tastes and interests. I had received a beautifully illustrated book from Emma, a handmade candle from Sarah, and a thoughtful card from Jason with a voucher for my favorite bookstore. When it came time for Alex to present her gift, she handed me a small package with a sheepish smile. "This is from both of us," she said, nodding towards Mark. I opened it to find a lovely bracelet, delicate and simple, perfectly suited to my style. I thanked them both, genuinely touched by the thoughtfulness of their gift. However, Mark surprised me by handing me another gift, separate from Alex's. It was a small object, carefully wrapped in plain paper. "This is from me," he said with a smile. "I hope you like it." I unwrapped the gift, revealing a beautiful antique trinket. It was a small, intricately designed item that instantly reminded me of a recent trip I had taken to my mother's home country in winter. I was genuinely moved by the gesture, thanking Mark warmly for the thoughtful gift. Little did I know that this seemingly innocent present would soon unravel a series of unexpected events, leading to revelations and decisions that none of us could have anticipated. As the night drew to a close and I returned home, I couldn't help but replay the evening's events in my mind. It had been a wonderful birthday celebration, filled with the warmth and laughter that only good friends could bring. Yet, as I unpacked the gifts I had received, one particular present stood out. The antique trinket from Mark. Its exquisite design had caught my eye the moment I unwrapped it. But now, in the quiet of my apartment, it seemed to demand even more of my attention. I placed the small item on my coffee table, its intricate details illuminated by the soft light of my reading lamp. The craftsmanship was remarkable, unlike anything I had seen before. Certain elements, such as the delicate engravings and the lustrous finish, hinted at its age and potential value. The more I looked at it, the more questions arose in my mind. Where had Mark found such a unique piece? And why would he choose to give me something that seemed far more valuable than our usual range of gifts? I picked up the trinket again, turning it over in my hands. There was something about the way the light played off its surface, especially the parts that looked like they should be glass but weren't. It was almost as if the object had a story of its own to tell, a history that was waiting to be uncovered. I noticed a small maker's mark on the bottom, an intricate symbol that seemed almost familiar, though I couldn't quite place it. My curiosity now fully piqued, I decided to do a bit of research. I grabbed my laptop and settled onto the couch, determined to find out more about this mysterious gift. I started by searching for the maker's mark, hoping it would lead me to some answers. The first few results were vague, offering little information beyond general descriptions of antique symbols. But then, after several minutes of scrolling and clicking through links, I found a match. The symbol belonged to a renowned artisan from the 19th century, famous for creating high-quality handcrafted items. The trinket, it seemed, was not just any antique. It was a piece of historical significance, likely worth a considerable amount of money. My heart skipped a beat as I read on, absorbing the details of the artisan's legacy and the value of his works. The more I learned, the more astonished I became. I found an online auction site that listed similar items by the same artisan, with prices ranging from several hundred to several thousand euros. My mind raced as I tried to process the information. Could it be that the trinket Mark had given me was worth that much? It seemed unbelievable, and yet the evidence was right in front of me. To be sure, I searched for the exact item, using keywords that described its specific features. After what felt like an eternity, I found a match. My breath caught in my throat as I stared at the screen. There it was, the exact same trinket, listed for 750 euros. I blinked, hoping I had made a mistake, but the details were unmistakable. A wave of mixed emotions washed over me: disbelief, confusion, and a growing sense of unease. Why would Mark give me something so expensive? It was wildly inappropriate, especially considering our group's unspoken agreement about modest gifts. Moreover, knowing that Mark was often financially strained made the situation even more perplexing. Had he really spent this much money on a gift for me? And if so, why? I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. The more I thought about it, the more it didn't make sense. I considered the possibility that Mark might not have known the true value of the item, but that seemed unlikely. The trinket was clearly special, and its worth would have been apparent to anyone who had handled it. The implications of the gift were troubling. I valued my friendship with Alex deeply, and the last thing I wanted was for something like this to cause problems between us. I knew I needed to talk to her about it, but I wasn't sure how to approach the subject. What if she didn't know about the gift's value? Or worse, what if she did and it led to a confrontation between them? As I sat there, turning these thoughts over in my mind, I felt a knot of anxiety forming in my stomach. I couldn't ignore the situation, but I also didn't want to jump to conclusions without more information. The only thing I knew for certain was that I needed to get to the bottom of this, for my own peace of mind and for the sake of my friendship with Alex. I decided to sleep on it, hoping that some clarity might come with the morning. But as I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, my mind refused to rest. The image of the trinket kept flashing before my eyes, a constant reminder of the questions that still needed answers. The next day, I reached out to Alex, asking if we could meet up. I didn't mention the gift in my message, wanting to talk to her in person. She agreed, and we planned to meet at a cafe later that afternoon. As I prepared for our conversation, I felt a mixture of dread and determination. I needed to handle this delicately, but I also needed to be honest with her about my concerns. When we met, Alex greeted me with her usual warmth and energy, but I could tell something was on her mind as well. After some small talk, I took a deep breath and brought up the gift. I explained how I had researched the trinket and discovered its significant value, and watched as her expression shifted from curiosity to shock. 750 euros? She repeated, her eyes wide with disbelief. Are you sure? I nodded, showing her the listing I had found online. Alex stared at the screen, then back at me, clearly processing the information. I had no idea, she said finally. I don't even know what to say. We sat in silence for a moment, both of us grappling with the implications. Alex's face was a mix of confusion and concern. Mark has never been great with money, she admitted. But I don't understand why he would do this. Neither do I said quietly. And that's why I think we need to talk to him. Together. Alex agreed, and we made a plan to confront Mark that evening. As we parted ways, I felt a sense of resolve. Whatever the explanation, we needed to uncover the truth. The trinket, with all its historical significance and unexpected value, had brought us to a crossroads, and there was no turning back now. We spent the next hour discussing how to frame our questions, aiming to keep the conversation as neutral as possible initially. Our plan was to start by asking Mark about the origins of the gift, hoping he would offer some insight without feeling cornered. But we also agreed that if his answers didn't add up, we would press him for the truth. As the time for the confrontation approached, I felt a growing sense of anxiety. Confrontations were never easy, and this one had the potential to fracture our friendship and cause serious issues in Alex's relationship. But we both knew that we couldn't ignore the situation any longer. Mark arrived at Alex's apartment around 7 p.m., oblivious to the storm that was about to unfold. He greeted us with his usual charm, but I could sense an underlying tension in his demeanor. We all sat down in the living room, and after some initial small talk, Alex and I exchanged a glance, signaling that it was time to begin. "Mark," Alex started, her voice calm but firm. "There's something we need to talk to you about. It's about the gift you gave to my name for her birthday." Mark's expression shifted slightly, a hint of apprehension crossing his features. "Oh, the trinket. Did she like it?" I took a deep breath and spoke up. "It's a beautiful gift, Mark. But I did some research and found out that it's worth a lot of money. Around €750, in fact." Mark's eyes widened slightly, but he quickly masked his surprise. "Really? I had no idea." Alex leaned forward, her tone more urgent now. "Mark, where did you get the trinket? We need to know the truth." For a moment, Mark looked like he was going to evade the question, but then he sighed and rubbed the back of his neck. "All right, I didn't exactly buy it. I took it from my parents' house." I felt a jolt of shock, and from the look on Alex's face, she was equally stunned. "You stole it?" she asked, her voice trembling with a mix of disbelief and anger. "It wasn't like that," Mark said quickly. "I didn't think it was a big deal. My mom has so many antiques lying around. I thought she wouldn't miss one little trinket. I just wanted to give my name something nice for her birthday." I could hardly believe what I was hearing. "Mark, that trinket is worth a lot more than just a nice birthday gift. It has historical and sentimental value. Your mom must be worried sick about where it went." Mark looked genuinely remorseful now. "I didn't realize it was that important. I just wanted to do something special." The room fell silent for a moment as we all processed his confession. The air was thick with tension, and I could see the pain in Alex's eyes. She turned to Mark, her voice breaking. "How could you do this, Mark? You know how much we've struggled financially, and you go and take something so valuable without even telling me." Mark reached out to her, but she pulled away, tears welling up in her eyes. "I'm sorry, Alex. I really am. I just thought. I don't know what I thought. I messed up." I felt a mixture of anger and sympathy. Mark's actions were reckless and thoughtless, but I could see that he hadn't intended to cause harm. Still, the damage was done, and there was no easy way to fix it. The next morning, I felt a mix of apprehension and determination as I prepared to return the heirloom to Mark's mother. Alex had arranged the meeting, and I could sense her anxiety about the upcoming confrontation. We met at my apartment, where the trinket still sat on my coffee table, an object that had caused so much turmoil in such a short time. Alex and I arrived at Mark's parents' home, a quaint and well-kept house that exuded warmth and history. The front garden was meticulously maintained, with blooming flowers and a neatly trimmed hedge. It was clear that Mark's mother took great pride in her home, which only added to my guilt about the situation. We were greeted at the door by Mark's mother, Mrs. Thompson, a gracious woman in her late 50s. She had an air of dignity and kindness that immediately put me at ease, despite the circumstances. Her eyes, however, betrayed a hint of sadness and worry. "Thank you for coming," she said, her voice calm but tinged with emotion. "Please, come in." We followed her into the living room, a cozy space filled with antique furniture and family photographs. It was easy to see that this was a home steeped in history and love. Mrs. Thompson gestured for us to sit on the plush sofa while she took a seat in an armchair across from us. "I understand you have something to return to me," she said gently, her eyes focused on the wrapped parcel in my hands. "Yes, Mrs. Thompson," I replied, my voice steady despite my nervousness. "This trinket belongs to you. I'm so sorry for any distress this has caused." I carefully unwrapped the item and handed it to her. She took it with reverence, her eyes welling up with tears as she examined it closely. "This belonged to my great-great-great-grandmother," she said softly, her voice breaking slightly. "It has been passed down through generations in our family. I can't thank you enough for returning it." Her words hung in the air, heavy with the weight of history and sentiment. Alex and I exchanged a glance, both of us feeling the profound significance of the moment. Mrs. Thompson placed the trinket on the table beside her and took a deep breath. "Would you like some tea?" she offered, clearly trying to compose herself. We accepted, and she left the room briefly to prepare the tea. When she returned, she carried a tray with a delicate china teapot, cups, and a plate of biscuits. We each took a cup and settled back into our seats. As we sipped our tea, Mrs. Thompson began to share stories about her family and the cultural heritage tied to the heirloom. She spoke of her ancestors, their journey to this country, and the challenges they faced. Her eyes sparkled with pride as she recounted tales of resilience and strength, each story adding layers of meaning to the trinket that had caused so much trouble. Listening to her, I felt a deep sense of respect and admiration for the history she carried with her. It was clear that the trinket was more than just an object. It was a symbol of her family's legacy and identity. "I can't tell you how much this means to me," she said, her voice filled with gratitude. "This heirloom is a tangible connection to my past, and having it back where it belongs is more than I could have hoped for." As we left Mrs. Thompson's home, I felt a mixture of relief and introspection. The heirloom had been returned, and in doing so, we had helped preserve a piece of history that was deeply meaningful to her and her family. But the experience had also given me much to reflect upon. I thought about the implications of the incident for my friendship with Alex. This ordeal had tested our bond in ways I hadn't anticipated. It has forced us to confront uncomfortable truths and navigate a delicate situation with care and honesty. But it also strengthened our friendship, proving that we could rely on each other in times of crisis. The incident also made me reconsider my views on trust and materialism. Trust is a fragile thing, easily broken but difficult to repair. Mark's actions had been a betrayal of that trust, not only to his mother but to Alex and me as well. It made me realize how important it is to be mindful of the impact our actions can have on others, especially those we care about. Materialism, too, took on a new meaning in light of this experience. The trinket, while valuable in monetary terms, held far greater significance because of its history and the stories it represented. It reminded me that the true value of an object often lies not in its material worth, but in the memories and connections it embodies. As I walked home, I felt a sense of closure. Returning the heirloom had been the right thing to do, and it had brought a measure of peace to all involved. The experience had been a challenging one, but it had also offered valuable lessons about integrity, respect, and the enduring power of family and friendship. In the end, I knew that this incident would stay with me for a long time, not as a source of regret, but as a reminder of the importance of doing the right thing, even when it's difficult. It had shown me the strength of my friendships, the importance of honesty, and the profound connections that tie us to our past and shape our future. The experience of receiving an unexpectedly expensive gift and the subsequent journey to uncover its origins and return it to its rightful owner taught me profound lessons about trust, integrity, and the true value of material possessions. Firstly, the incident highlighted the delicate nature of trust in relationships. Trust is a foundational element that binds friendships, romantic relationships, and familial bonds. Mark's actions, although seemingly well-intentioned, constituted a serious breach of this trust. By taking something valuable from his mother without permission and giving it to me, he not only betrayed his mother's trust but also put Alex and our friendship in a precarious position. This incident underscored that trust, once broken, is difficult to rebuild, and that our actions, even when done without malice, can have far-reaching consequences on those we care about. Secondly, the situation reaffirmed the importance of integrity and honesty. When I discovered the true value of the trinket, I was faced with a dilemma. It would have been easy to ignore the implications and simply enjoy the gift, but doing so would have been morally wrong. Instead, I chose to confront the issue head-on, involving Alex and eventually Mark's mother. This decision was not easy, but it was the right thing to do. Integrity often requires us to take difficult and uncomfortable actions, but maintaining honesty and transparency is crucial for fostering genuine and lasting relationships. Moreover, this experience also made me reevaluate the concept of materialism and the true worth of objects. The trinket, while monetarily valuable, held far greater significance due to its historical and sentimental value. It was not just an expensive antique. It was a cherished family heirloom, a tangible connection to the past, and a symbol of cultural heritage. This realization helped me understand that the real value of possessions often lies in the stories and memories they carry, rather than their monetary worth. It reminded me that the most meaningful gifts are those that come from the heart and have a personal significance, rather than those that come with a hefty price tag. Finally, the ordeal reinforced the strength of my friendship with Alex. Navigating this challenging situation together showed us both that we could rely on each other in times of crisis. It proved that open communication and mutual support are essential in overcoming difficulties and maintaining strong, healthy relationships. Despite the initial shock and betrayal, our friendship emerged stronger, built on a foundation of trust and mutual respect. In conclusion, the incident with the extravagant gift served as a powerful reminder of the importance of trust, integrity, and the true value of material possessions. It taught me that honesty and transparency are crucial in maintaining healthy relationships, and that the most valuable things in life are often those that money cannot buy. This experience, though challenging, offered invaluable lessons that will guide me in my future interactions and decisions, reinforcing the significance of doing the right thing, even when it is difficult. My pregnant daughter is about to marry an incarcerated man. How do I deal with this situation while being estranged by my daughter? My name is Evelyn, and I am 47 years old. I have always considered myself a devoted mother, one who would do anything to ensure the happiness and well-being of her children. My life has been a tapestry of joys and challenges, woven with the threads of my family's journey. I have 2 children, my eldest Natalie, who is 22, and my son Daniel, who is 18. This story, however, revolves around Natalie, my brilliant, beautiful, and headstrong daughter, who has always been the apple of my eye. Natalie has always been a remarkable young woman. From a very young age, she exhibited an intelligence and determination that set her apart from her peers. She excelled academically, earning top grades in school and winning numerous awards. Her passion for learning and helping others led her to pursue a career in dentistry. I remember the pride swelling in my chest when she graduated from high school with honors. Her future seemed so bright and full of promise. After high school, Natalie went on to college, where she continued to shine. She graduated with an associate's degree in dental hygiene and was subsequently accepted into a prestigious dental school. Her acceptance was a testament to her hard work and dedication. As a mother, I couldn't have been prouder. Natalie had everything going for her: a bright future, a loving family, and a supportive partner. Natalie's personal life also seemed to be on a positive trajectory. She had been in a steady and healthy relationship with her high school sweetheart Mark. Mark was a kind and responsible young man who adored Natalie. They met during their senior year of high school and quickly became inseparable. Their relationship blossomed over the years, and they supported each other through the ups and downs of young adulthood. I saw in Mark the qualities of a devoted partner and a good father. About a year ago, Natalie and Mark welcomed their first child into the world, a beautiful baby boy named Oliver. Watching Natalie become a mother was one of the most profound experiences of my life. She embraced motherhood with grace and dedication, balancing her studies and her new responsibilities with remarkable poise. Mark was equally committed, proving himself to be a loving and attentive father. Their little family seemed perfect, and they even got engaged 6 months ago, planning to marry after Natalie finished her dental studies. However, life has a way of throwing unexpected challenges our way. Around the same time Natalie and Mark got engaged, she began a peculiar new hobby: writing letters to prisoners. Initially, I was uncomfortable with the idea. The notion of my daughter communicating with inmates was unsettling, to say the least. But Natalie assured me it was merely a way to offer companionship to those who were lonely and forgotten by society. She believed everyone deserved a second chance and wanted to make a difference, even if it was just through words on paper. Natalie explained the pen pal program to me over dinner one evening. She was animated and enthusiastic, her eyes sparkling with the excitement of doing something meaningful. "Mom, these people are human too. They've made mistakes, but they deserve a second chance, a little bit of hope," she said. I nodded, admiring her compassion but feeling a knot tighten in my stomach. Writing to prisoners was not something I had ever considered, and it seemed fraught with potential dangers. Initially, I tried to dissuade her. "Natalie, are you sure this is safe? You don't know these people, and prisons are filled with individuals who have committed serious crimes," I cautioned. But she was resolute. "I'll be careful, Mom. I'll use a P.O. box, and I won't give out any personal information. It's just letters. What harm could it do?" Seeing her determination, I reluctantly agreed, on the condition that she use a P.O. box for all correspondence. I rented one for her myself, hoping this small precaution would provide a buffer between her and any potential danger. As the weeks turned into months, I watched her immerse herself in this new activity. She would often sit at the kitchen table, surrounded by stationery, writing long, heartfelt letters. Her dedication was touching, and despite my reservations, I couldn't help but feel proud of her for wanting to make a difference. One name began to come up more frequently in our conversations: Jacob. At first it was just in passing. "Jacob wrote me the most beautiful letter today. He's so articulate and thoughtful," she would say. Gradually he became a central figure in her letters. She would read me excerpts from his responses, and I could see why she was drawn to him. He wrote with a sensitivity and depth that were unexpected from someone in his circumstances. He spoke of regret, redemption, and hope for a better future. Still, I couldn't shake my unease. As time went on, I noticed a shift in Natalie. She started talking about Jacob not just as a pen pal but as someone who had become important to her. "Mom, Jacob's different. He's not like the others. He's intelligent, kind, and he understands me in a way no one else does," she said one evening, her voice filled with conviction. I could see the spark in her eyes, The same one I had seen when she talked about Mark in the early days of their relationship. It was then that I began to worry that this was more than just a pen pal friendship. My worst fears were confirmed one Sunday afternoon. Natalie had been unusually quiet all morning, and I could tell something was on her mind. We were sitting on the porch, enjoying the warm sunshine, when she turned to me and said, "Mom, there's something I need to tell you." Her tone was serious, and I felt a pang of anxiety. "I'm in love with Jacob," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "We've been writing to each other for almost 8 months, and I've fallen for him. He's everything I've ever wanted in a partner. He makes me feel special and understood." The words hit me like a ton of bricks. I stared at her, unable to speak, my mind racing with 1,000 thoughts. How could this be happening? My daughter, who had so much going for her, was in love with a man behind bars. "Natalie, this is crazy. You don't even know him. He's in prison for a reason," I finally managed to say, my voice shaking with a mixture of fear and anger. But she was resolute. "I do know him, Mom. We've shared so much with each other through our letters. He's made mistakes, yes, but he's changed. He's not the same person he was when he went in." We argued for hours that day, each of us standing our ground. I tried to make her see reason, to understand the dangers and the potential heartbreak she was inviting into her life. But she was adamant. "You don't understand, Mom. You've never felt what I feel for him. He's my soulmate," she said, tears streaming down her face. In the following weeks, I tried to come to terms with the situation. I wanted to believe that Natalie was just going through a phase, that she would eventually see the futility and danger of her actions. But instead, she became more entrenched in her relationship with Jacob. She started visiting him regularly, taking Oliver with her. The thought of my grandson being exposed to such an environment made me sick with worry. One evening, she showed me photos from her visits. There they were, smiling and embracing, Jacob holding Oliver as if he were his own. It was a surreal and heartbreaking sight. "Mom, he loves Oliver. He wants to be a father to him," she said, her voice filled with a hope that I found both touching and terrifying. Desperate to understand, I began to research Jacob's past. What I found only deepened my fear and anger. Jacob had a long criminal record, including charges of armed robbery and assault. He was serving a lengthy sentence for his crimes, and there was no guarantee he would be released anytime soon. The thought of my daughter and grandson being involved with someone so dangerous was unbearable. I confronted Natalie with what I had learned, hoping it would make her see reason. "Natalie, this man is dangerous. He has a history of violence. You can't risk your life and Oliver's life for someone like him," I pleaded. But she remained steadfast. "Mom, people can change. He's paid for his mistakes, and he's a different person now. Why can't you see that?" she responded, her eyes filled with a mixture of defiance and hurt. Our relationship became increasingly strained. We argued constantly, and every conversation seemed to end in tears and frustration. Natalie accused me of not trusting her judgment, of not understanding her love for Jacob. I, on the other hand, couldn't understand how she could be so blind to the risks and the potential for heartbreak. The tension between us grew, and I felt like I was losing her. The breaking point came when Natalie told me Jacob had proposed to her during one of her visits, and she had accepted. I was beyond shocked. "You can't be serious, Natalie. You're going to marry a man who is in prison? What kind of life will that be for you and Oliver?" I demanded, my voice rising with a mixture of anger and desperation. But she was determined. "I love him, Mom. He's the one I want to be with, and we're going to make it work," she said, her face set with a resolve that both scared and saddened me. Our argument that day was the worst we had ever had. We both said things we regretted, and the rift between us widened. Natalie accused me of being controlling and unsupportive, and I, in turn, told her she was being naive and reckless. In the end, she stormed out of the house, vowing that she wouldn't let me stand in the way of her happiness. I was left standing there, feeling a profound sense of loss and helplessness. Since that day, Natalie has distanced herself from me. She moved out, taking Oliver with her, and cut off almost all communication. The pain of not seeing my daughter and grandson is a constant ache in my heart. I feel like I've lost her to a man I believe will bring nothing but pain and disappointment into her life. I lie awake at night, tormented by thoughts of what could happen to her and Oliver, and feeling utterly powerless to protect them. In the months that followed, I tried to find ways to bridge the gap between us. I sent letters, left messages, and even tried to reach out through mutual friends. But Natalie remained distant, unwilling to let me back into her life unless I accepted her relationship with Jacob. It was a price I couldn't pay, and the stalemate continued. As Natalie's relationship with Jacob deepened, my concerns grew exponentially. The thought of my daughter and grandson being involved with a man with such a dangerous past kept me up at night. My mind was a whirlwind of worst-case scenarios, each one more terrifying than the last. I could feel the tight-knit fabric of our family beginning to unravel, and I felt helpless to stop it. Our once peaceful household became a battleground of arguments and strained silences. The tension was palpable, hanging in the air like a dark cloud. Every conversation with Natalie seemed to escalate into a heated dispute, leaving us both emotionally drained. I tried to be patient, to choose my words carefully, but my fear for her and Oliver's safety often got the better of me. "Natalie, you have to think about Oliver. What kind of life will he have with Jacob in the picture?" I pleaded one evening, my voice trembling with desperation. We were in the living room, and I could see the frustration building in her eyes. "Mom, I am thinking about Oliver. Jacob loves him, and he wants to be a good father. He's changed." "People can change," she responded, her tone edged with irritation. "How can you be so sure? You've known him for less than a year, and most of that time he's been behind bars." "You don't know what he's really like," I countered, trying to keep my voice steady. "Why can't you just trust me, Mom? I'm not a child. I know what I'm doing," she shot back, her eyes flashing with defiance. The arguments would often end with Natalie storming out of the room, leaving me alone with my fears and doubts. I felt like I was losing her to a man I barely knew, and it broke my heart. The Natalie I knew was slipping away, replaced by someone I barely recognized. Someone who was willing to risk everything for a love I couldn't understand. The situation was further complicated by the presence of Natalie's ex-fiancé, Mark. Mark had been a part of our family for years, and his sudden departure from Natalie's life left a gaping hole. He was devastated by the breakup, and his pain mirrored my own. We often found ourselves confiding in each other, trying to make sense of the chaos that had upended our lives. Mark came over one evening, his face drawn and weary. We sat in the kitchen, sipping coffee and sharing our worries. "I just don't understand it, Evelyn. We were happy. I thought we had a future together," he said, his voice cracking with emotion. "I know, Mark. I thought the same. This relationship with Jacob, it's tearing us all apart," I replied, my eyes welling up with tears. Mark nodded, his expression one of deep sorrow. "I miss Oliver so much. I miss Natalie. It feels like I've lost my family," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. I reached out and squeezed his hand, trying to offer some comfort. "We'll get through this, Mark. We have to. For Oliver's sake," I said, though I wasn't sure if I believed it myself. The impact of Natalie's new relationship on our family was profound. Oliver, only a little over a year old, was caught in the middle of a situation he couldn't possibly understand. I worried about the stability and safety of his environment. Natalie's visits to the prison, taking Oliver with her, seemed reckless and irresponsible to me. I feared for his well-being and the kind of influence Jacob might have on him. My relationship with Natalie became increasingly strained. The more I tried to intervene, the more she pushed me away. She accused me of not respecting her decisions, of trying to control her life. It was a painful accusation, and it cut deeply. I had always prided myself on being a supportive and understanding mother, but this situation tested my limits. The breaking point came one afternoon when Natalie announced she was moving out. She couldn't stand the constant arguments and the atmosphere of disapproval. "I need space, Mom. I can't live like this anymore. I need to do what's right for me and Oliver," she said, her voice steady but filled with an underlying sadness. "Natalie, please. Don't do this. We can work it out. You don't have to leave," I begged, my heart breaking at the thought of her and Oliver moving out. "I'm sorry, Mom, but I have to. I need to build a life with Jacob and I can't do that here," she replied, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. I watched helplessly as she packed her things and left, taking Oliver with her. The house felt emptier than ever, the silence a constant reminder of the fractured state of our family. I felt like I had failed her, failed to protect her and guide her through this tumultuous time. The weeks that followed were a blur of sorrow and worry. Natalie kept her distance, and my attempts to reach out were met with silence. Mark too was struggling to cope with the loss. He continued to visit, and we found solace in each other's company, trying to navigate the emotional minefield we were both trapped in. The family dynamics had shifted dramatically. Daniel, my younger son, was affected as well. He was close to Natalie and Oliver, and their absence weighed heavily on him. He struggled to understand why his sister had made such a drastic decision, and I found myself trying to reassure him even as I grappled with my own doubts. One evening, as we sat down for dinner, Daniel broke the silence that had settled over the table. "Mom, do you think Natalie will ever come back?" he asked, his voice tinged with sadness. "I hope so, Daniel. I really do. We just have to give her time and support her as best we can," I replied, though I wasn't sure if I believed it myself. The strain of the situation took a toll on my health. I found it hard to sleep, my mind constantly racing with worries about Natalie and Oliver. I lost weight, and my energy levels plummeted. Friends and family noticed the change and expressed their concern, but I felt powerless to change the course of events. In the midst of this turmoil, I sought solace in my faith and in the support of close friends. I spent hours praying, hoping for some divine intervention that would bring my daughter back to me. I also leaned on my best friend, Susan, who had been a pillar of strength throughout this ordeal. Susan would visit regularly, offering a listening ear and words of comfort. "Evelyn, you've done everything you can. Natalie knows you love her. She'll come around eventually," she would say, her voice filled with reassuring confidence. "I hope you're right, Susan. I just feel so helpless. I want to protect her, but I don't know how," I would reply, my heart heavy with worry. Susan's words of comfort were a small beacon of hope in the midst of my despair. But as the days stretched into weeks, and then months, I found myself sinking deeper into a sense of hopelessness. Natalie remained resolute in her decision to marry Jacob, despite my best efforts to make her see reason. One afternoon, as I sat alone in my living room, the weight of my worry pressing down on me like a leaden blanket, the phone rang. It was Mark, Natalie's ex-fiancé. His voice was strained, filled with a mixture of anger and despair. "Evelyn, have you seen the news?" he asked, his words tumbling out in a rush. I felt a shiver of apprehension run down my spine. "No, what's happened?" I asked, my heart pounding in my chest. "It's Jacob. He's been arrested again," Mark replied, his voice thick with emotion. The news hit me like a punch to the gut. I could hardly believe it. How could things possibly get any worse? But as Mark filled me in on the details, my worst fears were confirmed. Jacob had been charged with a series of violent crimes, including assault and robbery. It was a devastating blow, one that sent shockwaves through our already fractured family. As the reality of the situation sank in, I felt a surge of anger and frustration. How could Natalie have been so blind to Jacob's true nature? How could she have put herself and Oliver in such danger? The sense of betrayal was overwhelming, and I struggled to contain my emotions. But amid the turmoil, there was a glimmer of hope. Mark and I had discussed the possibility of taking legal action to protect Natalie and Oliver from Jacob's influence, and now it seemed more urgent than ever. With Jacob behind bars, we had a window of opportunity to intervene, to ensure that Natalie and Oliver were kept safe from harm. I called Mark immediately, and we arranged to meet as soon as possible to discuss our next steps. Despite the pain and heartache of the past months, there was a sense of determination in my heart. I would do whatever it took to protect my daughter and grandson from further harm, even if it meant facing Jacob in court. As Mark arrived at my home, his face drawn and weary, I could see the weight of the world on his shoulders. We sat down together at the kitchen table, our minds racing with possibilities and uncertainties. But amidst the chaos, there was a sense of solidarity, a shared commitment to do whatever was necessary to safeguard our family's future. "I can't believe it's come to this," Mark said, his voice breaking with emotion. "I never imagined things would end up like this." "I know, Mark. But we have to stay strong for Natalie and Oliver. They need us now more than ever," I replied, my voice steady with resolve. We spent hours discussing our options, weighing the risks and benefits of each course of action. In the end, we agreed that taking Jacob to court was the best course of action. It was a daunting prospect, filled with uncertainty and potential backlash, but we knew it was the only way to ensure Natalie's safety and well-being. The days that followed were a whirlwind of activity as we prepared for the legal battle ahead. We consulted with lawyers, gathered evidence, and braced ourselves for the challenges that lay ahead. It was a daunting task, but knowing that we were fighting for Natalie and Oliver gave us the strength to persevere. As the news of our intentions to take Jacob to court reached Natalie, the fallout was swift and devastating. I received a barrage of angry messages and missed calls from her, each one more hostile than the last. My heart sank as I read her words, filled with venom and betrayal. How had it come to this? How had our efforts to protect her and Oliver been interpreted as an act of betrayal? The weight of Natalie's accusations bore down on me like a crushing weight, leaving me feeling more lost and helpless than ever before. I had hoped that our actions would be seen as a desperate attempt to keep her safe from harm, but instead, they had only served to further alienate us from her. In a moment of desperation, I tried to call her, to explain our reasoning and reassure her of our love and concern. But she rejected my calls, refusing to engage with me in any way. The rejection felt like a knife to the heart, leaving me feeling more alone and isolated than ever before. As the days passed, the silence from Natalie grew deafening. I longed to reach out to her, to mend the rift that had torn our family apart, but I didn't know where to begin. How could I bridge the gap between us when she refused to even acknowledge my existence? Then, Just when I thought things couldn't get any worse, I received a text message from Natalie. My heart skipped a beat as I read her words, filled with anger and resentment. She cursed me in language that cut to the bone, accusing me of betraying her trust and tearing her family apart. It was a heartbreaking moment, one that left me reeling with shock and disbelief. I tried to respond, to plead with her to listen to reason, but she blocked my number before I could send a single word. The rejection felt like a physical blow, leaving me gasping for breath as tears streamed down my cheeks. How had it come to this? How had our once loving relationship been reduced to this toxic exchange of insults and accusations? As a mother, watching my daughter make choices that I strongly disagree with is one of the most painful experiences I have ever endured. Natalie's decision to marry Jacob, an incarcerated man with a troubled past, feels like a nightmare that I can't wake up from. The thought of her committing herself to someone with such a questionable background fills me with a sense of dread and helplessness. I've tried everything to express my concerns to Natalie, to make her see the potential dangers of her choices. But she's so deeply entrenched in her relationship with Jacob that it's like talking to a brick wall. Every time I bring up my fears, she becomes defensive, lashing out at me for not supporting her decisions. It's a vicious cycle of arguments and hurt feelings that leaves both of us feeling more isolated and frustrated than ever. Now, Natalie refuses to speak to me or allow me to see my grandbaby. The thought of being cut off from them fills me with a pain that is almost unbearable. I love my daughter more than anything in this world, and the idea of losing her over this rift breaks my heart into a million pieces. I've always prided myself on being a supportive and understanding mother, but this situation has tested my limits in ways I never imagined. As much as I want to respect Natalie's autonomy and independence as an adult, I can't shake the feeling that she's making a grave mistake. One that could have devastating consequences for her and my precious grandson. I'm scared for her, terrified of what could happen if she goes through with this marriage. Jacob's past is filled with violence and criminal activity, and I can't help but fear for Natalie's safety. The thought of her being trapped in a relationship with someone who could potentially harm her fills me with a sense of dread that I can't shake. I don't know what else I can do to make Natalie see reason. I've tried talking to her, pleading with her, even begging her to reconsider her decision. But she's so blinded by love that she refuses to listen to reason. It's like she's in a whole other world, one where the dangers and risks are just a distant echo. I feel so hopeless, so powerless to change the course of events. All I want is for Natalie to be safe and happy, but it feels like an impossible task. I don't know where to turn or who to ask for help. I'm lost in a sea of uncertainty, desperately searching for a lifeline to pull me out of this nightmare. Please, if anyone out there has any advice or guidance, I'm begging you to share it with me. I can't bear the thought of losing my daughter and grandchild to a situation that seems so reckless and dangerous. I need to find a way to reach Natalie, to make her see the truth before it's too late. But I can't do it alone. I need your help. I refused to wax a trans woman client because I didn't want to touch male genitalia out of respect for my husband. My name is Sarah, and I am a 34-year-old licensed esthetician. From a young age, I was fascinated by the beauty industry and the way it could transform not only a person's appearance, but also their confidence. My journey into this field began in my late teens when I started working at a local spa. It was there that I discovered my passion for skincare and waxing, which eventually led me to pursue formal training and certification as an esthetician. Over the years, I honed my skills and built a reputation for being meticulous, compassionate, and dedicated to my clients' well-being. After gaining significant experience and saving up enough money, I decided to take the plunge and open my own small waxing salon. It was a dream come true, and I poured my heart and soul into creating a space that felt welcoming and safe for everyone who walked through the door. I named it Glow and Smooth, and it quickly became known for its serene atmosphere and exceptional service. My goal was always to ensure that my clients felt comfortable and cared for, no matter their background or needs. Glow and Smooth is more than just a business to me. It's a reflection of my commitment to providing a sanctuary where people can come to feel rejuvenated and confident in their skin. I meticulously designed the salon to have a calming ambiance, with soft lighting, soothing music, and a clean, inviting decor. Every detail, from the choice of high-quality products to the personalized service, was thoughtfully curated to enhance the client experience. I take pride in the fact that many of my clients have been with me since the beginning, and they often tell me how much they appreciate the tranquil and respectful environment I have created. Running my own small waxing salon, Glow and Smooth, involves more than just performing services. It also requires meticulous organization and preparation for each client. My booking process is straightforward yet thorough, designed to ensure that every client receives the highest level of care and attention. Clients book their appointments through an online system that asks for essential information, including the type of service they require and any specific needs or concerns they might have. This system helps me prepare for each session, allowing me to tailor my approach to meet individual preferences and ensure a comfortable experience. I review the appointment schedule daily, making notes on each client's preferences and any special instructions they may have provided. One day, I received a booking from a new client named Alex for a full Brazilian wax. The appointment was set for the following week, giving me ample time to prepare. As with all new clients, I reviewed Alex's information in detail. The form was filled out correctly, and there were no specific notes or concerns mentioned. I made sure to have all the necessary supplies ready and to set up the room in a way that would be welcoming and comfortable. When the day of the appointment arrived, I went through my usual routine of sanitizing the room, arranging my tools, and ensuring that the atmosphere was calming and inviting. I have always believed that the environment plays a significant role in the client's overall experience, and I strive to make every visit to glow and smooth as pleasant and relaxing as possible. As the appointment time approached, I heard the soft chime of the doorbell, signaling Alex's arrival. I greeted her with a warm smile, inviting her into the reception area. My initial impression of Alex was positive. She seemed friendly and somewhat nervous, a common reaction for clients coming in for an intimate waxing service. I introduced myself and guided her to the treatment room, making small talk to help her feel more at ease. Once we were in the room, I began our usual pre-service consultation. This is a crucial part of the process, as it allows me to understand the client's needs and address any concerns they might have. I explained the procedure in detail, including the steps I would take to ensure her comfort and safety. As we talked, it became clear to me that Alex was a trans woman. This realization brought a wave of internal conflict, as I was reminded of the personal boundaries I had set for myself and the agreement I had with my husband. Mark and I had established certain boundaries early in our relationship to ensure mutual respect and comfort. One of these boundaries was that I would only perform intimate waxing services on biological women with female genitalia. This decision was based on our personal values and the need to maintain trust and respect in our marriage. While I have always been a strong supporter of the LGBTQ+ community, I felt that this boundary was necessary to respect both my own comfort levels and my husband's feelings. I found myself in a difficult position. On one hand, I wanted to provide Alex with the same care and respect that I offered all my clients. On the other hand, I felt a deep sense of obligation to adhere to the boundaries and agreements that had been a cornerstone of my marriage. The internal struggle was intense, and I knew I had to handle the situation with sensitivity and honesty. Taking a deep breath, I gently explained to Alex that while I fully supported her and the LGBTQ+ community, I had personal boundaries that I needed to respect. I told her about the agreement I had with my husband and how it related to my practice. I assured her that my refusal was not out of discrimination or transphobia, but rather a matter of personal comfort and maintaining the integrity of my relationship. Alex listened quietly, her expression shifting from confusion to disappointment. I could see the hurt in her eyes, and it pained me to know that I was the cause. I continued to explain that I specialized in waxing biological women and did not have the necessary experience to ensure her safety and comfort. I offered to help her find another professional who was experienced in providing waxing services for trans clients, hoping to alleviate some of her frustration. Despite my efforts to explain and offer assistance, Alex was understandably upset. She accused me of discrimination and stormed out of the salon, leaving me standing there, feeling a mix of guilt and sadness. I had always prided myself on providing a safe and inclusive environment for all my clients, and this incident left me questioning whether I had done the right thing. The moment Alex stormed out of my salon, I felt an immediate pang of guilt and doubt. Her accusations of discrimination echoed in my mind, and I couldn't shake the image of her disappointed and hurt expression. I had always prided myself on providing a safe, inclusive and welcoming environment at Glow and Smooth. And now it felt like all of that had been called into question. As I stood alone in the treatment room, my mind raced with thoughts of whether I had made the right decision and what the repercussions would be. In the hours that followed, I found it hard to concentrate on my work. The incident with Alex weighed heavily on my conscience, making it difficult to focus on my other clients. Each time the doorbell chimed, signaling a new appointment, I couldn't help but feel a twinge of anxiety, wondering if the next person coming in had already heard about what happened. By the end of the day, word had indeed started to spread. In the age of social media and instant communication, it didn't take long for news of the incident to reach the wider community. I began receiving messages and comments online, some supportive and understanding, others harsh and critical. It was overwhelming, and I felt a mix of emotions, defensiveness, regret, and a desire to explain my side of the story. The feedback was mixed to say the least. Some people reached out to express their support, emphasizing the importance of personal boundaries and understanding the context of my decision. They appreciated my honesty and the fact that I had tried to handle the situation with as much sensitivity as possible. These messages provided some comfort and reassurance during a very turbulent time, On the other hand, there were many who were not so forgiving. I received several harsh messages accusing me of being transphobic and discriminatory. Some people vowed never to visit my salon again, while others went as far as leaving negative reviews online. It was disheartening to see my business, which I had worked so hard to build, being attacked in such a public way. I felt a deep sense of failure, as if I had let down not only Alex but the entire community I had always aimed to support. A few clients canceled their upcoming appointments, citing the incident as their reason. It was painful to see loyal customers turn away, and it made me question my actions even more. I started to worry about the long-term impact this would have on my business, and whether I would be able to recover from this blow. Despite the support, the negative feedback continued to weigh heavily on me. I found myself replaying the incident in my mind, questioning every decision and wondering if there was a better way I could have handled it. The guilt was compounded by the realization that I had inadvertently hurt someone who was simply seeking a service and a sense of acceptance. 2 weeks had passed since the incident with Alex and the fallout that followed. The once vibrant and bustling atmosphere at Glow and Smooth had noticeably dimmed. The salon, which had been a sanctuary of calm and comfort for so many clients, now felt like a shadow of its former self. The backlash from the community had been swift and severe, and I was left grappling with the consequences of my actions. Every morning, I opened the doors of Glow and Smooth, hoping for a return to normalcy, but the reality was stark. The usual steady stream of clients had dwindled to a trickle. Regulars who had once been loyal to my business were now hesitant, their trust shaken by the incident. New appointments were rare, and cancellations had become all too common. The salon, which had once been filled with the soothing hum of conversation and laughter, now echoed with an unsettling silence. The financial impact was immediate and harsh. With fewer clients coming in, my revenue had taken a significant hit. The bills and expenses of running a business didn't pause, and I found myself dipping into my savings to keep things afloat. The stress of the situation weighed heavily on me, affecting not only my professional life but also my personal well-being. Sleepless nights became the norm as I lay awake, replaying the incident over and over in my mind, questioning every decision I had made. I couldn't help but wonder if I had indeed lacked professionalism in handling the situation with Alex. My intentions were never to discriminate or make anyone feel unwelcome. I had tried to explain my personal boundaries and the agreement I had with my husband, but in the heat of the moment, it seemed my words had only caused more harm. Was it unprofessional to let my personal values influence my business decisions so heavily? This question haunted me constantly. The mixed feedback I received from the community only added to my confusion. Some clients and friends had reached out with words of support, emphasizing the importance of respecting personal boundaries and understanding the context of my actions. They appreciated my honesty and the attempt to handle the situation with sensitivity. However, others were not so forgiving. Accusations of transphobia and discrimination were leveled against me, tarnishing the reputation I had worked so hard to build. I sought solace in conversations with my husband, Mark, who remained steadfastly supportive. He understood the complex emotions I was grappling with and tried to reassure me that standing by our values was the right thing to do. But even his unwavering support couldn't entirely ease the burden of guilt and doubt I carried. In an attempt to navigate the fallout, I reached out to other professionals in the beauty industry, seeking their advice and experiences. Some shared similar challenges they had faced and offered guidance on how to move forward. They emphasized the importance of empathy, communication, and the need to continually evolve to better serve a diverse clientele. Their insights were valuable, but I still struggled to reconcile my personal values with the professional demands of inclusivity. I also contacted LGBTQ+ advocacy groups, hoping to gain a deeper understanding of how to create a truly inclusive environment at Glow and Smooth. These conversations were enlightening and humbling. I realized that while my intentions were never to discriminate, the impact of my actions had been profoundly felt by Alex and potentially others in the community. I learned about the specific needs and concerns of trans clients and how I could better accommodate them in the future. Despite these efforts, the path forward remained unclear. The immediate crisis had subsided, but the long-term implications were daunting. My confidence in my ability to manage the salon and provide a welcoming space for all clients was shaken. The once clear vision I had for Glow and Smooth was now clouded by uncertainty and self-doubt. As I stood in the empty salon, I felt a deep sense of loss. The dream I had worked so hard to achieve seemed to be slipping away, and I was unsure how to reclaim it. I knew that I needed to find a way to balance my personal boundaries with the professional responsibility of inclusivity, but the journey to get there seemed fraught with challenges. The incident with Alex had been a wake-up call, forcing me to confront my own beliefs and the impact they had on others. It had also revealed the fragile nature of trust and reputation in the business world. Moving forward, I was determined to rebuild and learn from this experience, but the road ahead was undeniably steep and uncertain. The lessons from this painful chapter would shape not only my business practices but also my understanding of empathy and inclusivity in a diverse and ever-evolving community.